I'm not doing anything that nobody else is willing to do. It's that I'm willing to do something significantly longer than most people are willing to do it.
This week we have Mr. Tommy Ashman.
I feel significantly more alive than I felt.
Tommy is an athlete, fitness trainer, and the founder of Ashman Athletics.
How does it feel to have these swords being sent to like Japan, Hong Kong, different places in the US?
It's really surreal. I start to feel antsy about it, where it's like, all right, I'm not doing enough, I gotta do more.
Where do you think that comes from, bro?
I don't know, maybe it's my own personal self-doubt that I have to work through, in all honesty.
What's your definition of feeling more alive?
I feel like I'm the main character of my own life.
Before we get started, if you could do me one favor, if you received any value out of this podcast, please take the time to like and subscribe to the show. My goal is to keep growing this podcast and bring you the most creative and talented humans in the entire world. Taking the time to like, subscribe, and comment allows me just to do that. Thanks, y'all. Tommy Ashman, what's up, baby?
Oh, man.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's been a long time. Or it hasn't been that long.
No,
Cheers.
It's been since May. Cheers.
May.
Tell everyone what
May?
we're drinking today, because you just
we're
whipped this
drinking
up.
a Black Russian, guys. It's tequila. Basically, Tommy was craving some tequila and some Inspirit coffee bitters in there. How are we liking it?
That's really good.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Little sweet, very full flavor. You can definitely taste the coffee.
Reposado tequila. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Dude, what a journey of a year. I think this might be the last podcast before 2024. What a treat.
It's an honor.
Dude, what have you learned so far?
Oh, my God.
I feel like looking
So
back at
much.
our journey in this, it's crazy how much you could accomplish in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are just like, oh, they're slow goals and they just progress as they seem fit. Like, this is what I am only capable of versus like there's an endless amount of capabilities you can do. Like, for example, this time last year you were at Stretch Lab just doing clients, personal training here and there, and then you've kind of built this whole empire of like Ashman Athletics with the swords, with the clubs, like programs coming out, flying people out to the Fit Expo.
A few programs dropping. I just flew people out in August, and I'm about to fly them out again. When is that? Oh, yeah, in January. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how it all happened so quick. It's weird. I'm still starting to get into the mindset that like it's real and it's happening, because it doesn't necessarily feel stable, I should say. Like, it's definitely real. Like, it's my 24/7 reality, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel real like working at Stretch Lab felt real. Like, when I worked at Stretch Lab, it was very comprehensible what I was doing. And with any job, it was very comprehensible. It was just show up, put my hours in, and when I'm done, I trust that I've made enough money to afford the lifestyle that I'm living. And with this, I'm never not working. When I'm traveling, I'm working. If I'm going to bed, I check my emails for bed. When I wake up, if I get up early, I have a few hours to work out and take personal time, but I'm working. It's constant. Even now, it's like this. Yes, this is a personal podcast, but it's also, in a way, a form of self-promotion, which loops back into work.
Yeah.
Everything loops back into that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is that a good thing? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, it's what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's definitely made me think about life differently, though, because I see a lot of other people and what they're doing with their time, with their lives, and it's just like, oh, I've chosen a very different path where I have a lot less time, and you get that too. I mean, now that you're personal training full time, you see how quickly you lose your personal life to your company.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I feel like it's a sacrifice for the character you're becoming, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I called Tommy when I was in Austin, and he was just working on swords. What were you back ordered like 70 swords at one point?
Dude, I was backordered by 250 swords.
Yeah, 250 swords at one point.
I'm currently backordered by 70 swords.
Yeah, backordered, and he was just talking about how it's like, yeah, dude, I'm just grinding, making swords out here, and I'm over here like saying, like, bro, that's so cool. Like, dude, you're doing the fucking thing, like, and obviously it doesn't feel good in those moments. You're like kind of just like by yourself in a shed, like cutting swords, priming them, shipping them out, and it's just you alone there, you know, like. What's your feeling when you're doing that?
It's a lot of suck, I'm not gonna lie. And
Yeah.
it's something I've really started to realize this year is it's not that I'm not doing anything that nobody else is willing to do. It's that I'm willing to do something significantly longer than most people are willing to do it. And that's something I think we talked about on the last podcast too, that I can do something for a lot of hours on end. And that's the emotion I've gotten really comfortable with, just trudging on with enthusiasm and trudging on through just whatever activity I find myself having to do. Okay, if I have to edit 10 videos, I will edit 10 videos. If I have to make 100 swords, I'll make 100 swords. Just doing whatever I have to do to keep the company floating and keep it moving, I'll do it. And now that I have more people on board, that's even more so. It's not...
Where do you think that trait or skill comes from? Or do you think it's a skill? Can it be learned, or do you think that's just your personality trait?
I think it can definitely be learned. I think I'm fortunate enough to have kind of an obsessive personality with the things I do already. But it can definitely be coded into anyone's brain. Reading the proper books, surrounding yourself with the right people, forcing yourself to do things that build willpower, cold plunges, exercise, meditation, those things.
Me and Tommy went on a hike with a couple of people from the gym that I work at, and this dude is a different animal when it comes to the cold plunger, bro. Like, you didn't shiver, you didn't flinch. This guy was in there for at least 18 to 22 minutes, probably around mid-40s, you would say?
It was probably mid-low 40s, yeah.
Mid-low 40s. I was in it for, I think, 8 minutes, and I thought that was really fucking good, but, like, even Rachel and Sean did great, bro. They
were phenomenal.
They were doing great, and I was, like, very impressed. And you want to talk about your cold plungers in Michigan?
So the past couple months, I've been traveling a lot, for those who don't know. I left LA October 16th. I was in Florida for 2 weeks, making swords down there. And then I went up to Chicago to make more swords in Chicago.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about for the swords, if you guys didn't listen to the last podcast, Tommy started this company called Ashman Athletics that makes these Dragon Slayer swords, right?
Yeah, and they're gigantic wooden swords that are used for working out. Similar to, weighted clubs or something like that, but just double the size of anything else.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm the only person manufacturing them.
Savage.
Yeah.
And you took this trip to Michigan to basically make these swords, right?
No, not Michigan, Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, so manufacturing is very difficult in California.
Yeah.
The price of lumber is double here that it is in other states. Taxes are higher. Even the cost of like polyurethane, stain, paintbrushes, everything, it's just more expensive to do it here. Renting out a shop space would be double the price. It's just not
feasible.
It makes more sense to fly to another state, run all my operation there, and then fly back here to make videos.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
Kind of insane.
But, yeah.
But you're doing cold plungers over there.
Yeah, so I have a friend in Chicago, Keenan, who's, just absolute hardworking savage, and he decided he was going to do cold plunges in Lake Michigan.
Okay.
And he invites me on like his second or third day.
So it wasn't your idea, it was this guy's idea.
Yeah, it was my friend Keenan's idea. He invites me. It's like his second or third day. He's like, yeah, we got to be there at 6 a.m. Catch the sunrise. And I'm just like, okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I come out there, we get in the water, we watch the sunrise, and it was one of the most serene moments of my entire life.
How so?
Because spending most of my year running a company and manufacturing and having things go wrong and having to clean up messes and, spending hours and hours responding to comments and messages and emails and everything, and suddenly just being in the water, freezing cold, cannot think about a single thing, watching the sun come up over the horizon, it brought me back to reality in a way that reminded me of just like, this is what it's about. And just having a moment like that at the very start of the day, where I'm just there with a friend I've had since high school. We're both experiencing just this incredible sensation, the sensory experience that you don't get from anything other than being submerged in cold water.
Can you describe it? Like, how do you feel?
It's kind of weightless. You know, it's when it hits you right, you don't even feel the cold. You're just completely numb immediately, and it goes through your body immediately.
Yeah.
Brings a lot of blood into your head. You can't move for a second. Sometimes it stops your breathing. It makes your diaphragm tense up. And it really just makes me so present. And then, you know, about 1:45, 2 minutes in, I start to relax into it. And then I'll be in the water, you know, we're just making each other laugh, making noises, cracking jokes. And
yeah, we were making some crazy sounds yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It's very primal, bro.
Absolutely.
Very primal. It's like you don't have control of the water. Like, this is the type of water that you would be so happy to bathe in a different time. Like, we didn't have showers back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this shit was like spring water. This is amazing.
Yeah, warm water is a very new thing
Yeah.
for the vast majority of humans. I mean, with the exception of like spring water and stuff. I mean, like if you're gonna have warm water, you boil a pot and like put a sponge in it and wrung it out over yourself. Like that's not.
The presentness point is really interesting because obviously there's a lot of scientific studies that show the health benefits of cold plunge and the, I guess, de-inflammation of the body, right? But the present stuff, that's not really in science. That's just like your body is shocked. You have to pay attention to the right now. This is what we're doing. This is what we're experiencing. This is how our existence is existing right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And like it's one of the most physically like, hey, we're in this moment right now. You have to pay attention to me, because versus sitting on the couch, your brain could go anywhere. Like,
yeah, it's very easy to get lost in that. And like, you know, when I'm thinking about planning out like the Fit Expo, for example, my brain is 6 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you know, all the details that go into that, housing people, renting a car.
I can't believe it's been a year since last year.
Yeah, it's been a year almost since that Life Fit Expo last year, which is a pretty crazy arc. I mean, I went viral slightly over a year ago. It was December of last year when this all like really started. It's pretty wild how much can change in 1 year. Yeah.
How does it feel to have these things, these swords, these products, these clubs, whatever that you've made with your bare hands being sent to like Japan, Hong Kong, different places in the US, and other people who you don't know in person, but like they're sending you a video of them swinging a Dragon Slayer, bro? And that's like, you were working on that fucking in a shed in the middle of the night, listening to this podcast, you know?
Yeah. It's really surreal. Like
that's fucking amazing, bro.
There's an element of detachment I have to it where like I see people swinging the swords and my first thought usually isn't like, oh, I made this and now they have it. It's just like, oh, this person has this thing. And I think part of that is I don't fully identify with the Dragon Slayer in the sense that like it's a piece of me, but it's not my entirety. So I see people with it and I'm just like, oh, people want to do this.
Well, we were talking about it yesterday. You said there's limits to it. You want to expand on that?
I think there's a market cap to it.
Yeah.
But I
Why
think
do you
that's
say
with
that,
anything. Because I think everything has a market cap.
I agree. But for example, like, it's just not normalized for, like, if you look at kettlebells and maces and stuff 10 years ago, they were not cool. Like, no one worked out with them. You look at them today, they're pretty close to like a dumbbell. Some people like would say that they're equivalent or even better than them. Yeah. Right? And you look at these swords and they're new. And I would say that they're the kettlebells and maces of 10 years ago. And maybe they could be like transitioned into mainstream fitness, you know? Yeah. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying like
I think there's an element of practicality.
Sure.
That requires, which I think it's possible. And 10 years, anything could happen. We've seen how much can happen in one, but in my head, I'm just like, I don't know, maybe it's my own personal self-doubt that I have to work through, in all honesty. But
Yeah, that holds a lot of people back.
yeah.
For the training stuff, it wasn't until I believed that I can help other people change their body and mentally and physically and emotionally that it started clicking.
Yeah.
I went from 6 clients to 18 within a matter of 2 months.
Yeah, and I mean, so much of what keeps me going with this is the other people in it. Like, when you called me when I was in Florida, that kept me going.
Yeah.
When I have, Sydney and Sean talk to me about, their training, or Kinetic Coach Dan down in Florida, develop a program, and Sean's developing a program. Sydney's enjoying training with the sword. Her daughter Paris is training with it. I just had another girl, Frizzy, I sent one out to. She's in New Jersey, or no, she's in Boston. Yeah, I think she's in Massachusetts. She started training with it. She sent me a text today, and then I read the reviews from people. That's what really keeps me going. In the sense that, like, when I'm just working endlessly, I'll get in my head and stuff, and
what would you get in your head about?
Anything, man.
Example.
I mean, I went through a pretty rough breakup this year.
Yeah.
That ate up a lot of my year mentally. When I really think about it, I can't say I'm proud of, but it's also just like, it happens. It's okay to
feel your feelings.
Yeah. But like, it's weird because like so much of this year, it's been like both my best year and one of the most difficult years for me in that regard. Which is kind of a wild thing, because I always thought that when I started to succeed, it would make me happy. And like, my happiness levels of the year, I've definitely had some of the happiest moments, but my overall happiness and mood of the year is not as high as it was last year, when I was just working a job and like living a more mundane life. At the same time, I feel significantly more alive than I felt.
That's interesting. So you feel more alive, but less happy.
Yeah.
What's your definition of feeling more alive?
I feel like I'm the main character of my own life. When I was at Stretch Lab, I felt like a pit crew for people who were living a main character role. People would come in, I'd stretch them for an hour, and they would go out to like do their real jobs, quote unquote, or run their businesses or do whatever they're doing. And like, I felt like pit crew.
I feel like that as well, bro. I feel like having full autonomy of your whole life, of like, you determine your destiny, your actions, the decisions that you make are compile into who you become, who you are, and eventually like where you're going to go and the people you're going to surround yourself with.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing against, working a job, working Stretch Lab, like, it was still a great experience, and it did get me conversations with all those people. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's also just the amount of stress I'm under is significantly more.
Yeah. You have like an urgency, right? Because you feel like you're going to let people down. Like these 70 orders, correct me if I'm wrong, but like if I was in your position, that's a lot of stress. Like these people want the product that you're creating, and they want it now.
Yeah. Like even today, like there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I'm here filming this podcast, and in my head I'm like, I should be in the shop right now making swords.
Yeah.
Like I feel obligated to do it.
Like back in Boston.
No, in Chicago.
In Chicago, sorry, my apologies.
But
yeah, it's so funny because you only been in town for like 5 days.
Yeah, I've only been back for a few days, and I'm already like, I should probably go back and make swords. The Fit Expo's until the 20th. I could wing a week, and it's just like...
Ultimately, do you want to stay here, though, in LA?
I'd like to, yeah. I think I get a lot done out here. I think the community of people I've gotten to build around me in the last almost 2 years is really positive, and I don't think I would be anywhere near where I am without them.
It's just kind of crazy because you're traveling all the time, and most of the time you haven't been here.
Yeah. Since this really took off, I've probably spent less than 50% of my waking hours in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild, but
you're doing all these crazy things, so you're still staying physically active.
Yeah. I mean, working on swords is physical activity,
Sure.
Being in a shop, moving the wood around, I'm just like picking up 20-pound awkward weights and moving them around 8-12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, when I was in Chicago last time, I wasn't really working out that much. I was just in the shop and eating really well and eating really high protein. And then like every 2 weeks I would just decide to hit a PR.
Yeah.
And I'd get it every time.
Yeah.
It was just funny. I was like, oh, I can just lift more now. Cool.
Yeah, it's that whole farmer mentality, bro. Because like they're just working on a farm all day. You're just working the wood shop all day, and it's physical activity. And then you don't realize like, oh, like I'm getting stronger doing these day-to-day tasks.
Yeah,
of,
exactly.
Like, the job.
Yeah, and it's a similar thing mentally. Like a lot of what helps me is I'll listen to an audiobook while I'm working.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, I'm just rather than get in my own thoughts, I can feed my head with the thoughts of someone else.
Or relive the experience of someone else as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like we were talking about Shoe Dog when I came in. Like that helped me get through a lot of this. It's just like, all right, hearing the story of Phil Knight and how Nike is just such a ground up company that he just built literally with his own two hands.
Yeah. If you guys don't know the story of Phil Knight, I recommend Shoe Dog a lot. It's definitely one of the most inspirational, true entrepreneurial stories ever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like Nike wasn't Nike. It was Blue Ribbon. Blue Ribbon was Nike, and like he quit multiple times. That was just on the back burner, working a normal job. Came back to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's doing similar things that you're doing. Like he's like having sponsors, like trying on his shoes for track meets. Like it's similar to the Fit Expo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really cool to see the parallels with it.
That and the level of stuff that's done by the skin of his teeth.
What do you mean?
That the amount of times Nike was about to fail that they just barely managed to pull through until they IPO'd.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like that for a decade.
Until they became public, for sure.
And I look at that with my company, like manufacturing's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, and Murphy's Law is very real. The biggest lesson I've learned this year.
What's Murphy's Law again?
If something can go wrong, it will. And if you are not thinking of every possible thing that can go wrong, then things are going to go wrong that you're just going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's like little things will add time, like handles breaking, for example. So UPS, they're a shipping company. They don't know what I'm doing. They see a big box, they throw it on the truck.
Yeah.
Because
have you had a few handles break?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I've had to send out a lot of replacement swords, which that's a huge expense.
Huge expense.
I have to buy the next shipping label. UPS doesn't want to pay the insurance thing out. They're like an airline, bro. You know, they want to keep their money. Sure, you paid for the insurance, but are you going to go through the 45 minutes of bureaucracy to get the money?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that, and it gets to a point where it's like it's not even feasible for me to take the time to do that when I just need to spend the time moving on to the next thing. So it's like making decisions to cut losses or to chase down money is one thing.
I think that's really important to like package it properly then. Right?
Yeah, so I had to totally change how I'm packaging them. I started going to Home Depot, buying plywood, cutting it into like little 2x1 sheets to put around the base of the blade.
Yeah.
Or the base of the sword when I'm making them. And that was in Florida after they broke a sword that was going to Sweden, and I had to send another one out there.
Dang.
And it was just like a $140 shipping label down the drain. I had to buy another one. Plus the cost of the sword.
Dang. Yeah, you don't think about that. I was really intrigued. I bought a gift for Hunter, the owner of Nomad.
Yeah.
And it was, do you know who Seth Rogen is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he started this company called... That was actually really accurate.
Nice.
He started this company called Houseplant, and it's a weed company, but it's kind of turned from a weed company into like the most beautiful ashtray company. Like it's straight up like concrete, cement, like painted, like basically an art piece of an ashtray.
Nice.
And the packaging of it was like foam in a box into more foam with a box into more foam with the box. It was like a 3-box process. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this is unnecessary. But no, it's not. Because from what you just told me right there, like that whole thing was to prevent any breakage for it to be replaced. You know, because it's an expensive product, one. And two, that I wouldn't have to pay for another shipping label. So taking the extra time to be cautious and get the customer the product on time in the condition that you want it to Way more.
Exactly.
I never thought about that until right now.
I was at a UPS store dropping swords off, and it's funny because I was putting fragile stickers on all my boxes, and the people at the UPS store just straight up told me, they're like, don't bother. And I'm like, what do you mean? They go, well, the machines can't read fragile stickers. And I'm just like, oh, God. And they give me the rundown of how the UPS, their factory basically works when they're processing the packages. And they're like, so unusual shaped packages, and this is in Florida, I don't know how it is in every other state, but they're taken to the 5th floor of this warehouse and fed onto a belt, which is just open, like hanging over, 5-story drops. And they just feed stuff onto the belt, and if it falls, they just bring it back up and load it back on. So, like, for all I know, swords are being dropped 50 feet onto a concrete floor.
What?
Yeah, which is like, okay.
So what's the process for dropping off? Because I've seen all your Instagram clips of you just loading up your car with swords. What's the process like of like actually shipping them out?
I bring them into a UPS store.
Okay.
I'm super friendly to all the UPS staff, so at first they're really annoyed with me, but then they learn to love me because I just every day I come in with like just like the best energy.
Yeah.
And that tends to make a difference. And I have them scan them all in, and then I go. And the reason I do that instead of having them do pickups is because when they do pickups, sometimes the driver won't scan them in. And when the driver doesn't scan them in, the packages go MIA, which is something that happened to me in October. I had about 25 swords just kind of vanish.
Disappear.
They had to be tracked down. They were at a shipping center in Orlando. My manufacturer in Florida basically had to drive from Jacksonville to Orlando to like see them in person and make sure they all got sent out. It was horrible, and it took like 3 weeks. It's part of why I got so back ordered, because at the time he was supposed to be making swords.
Yeah.
So then I had to fly down there myself and make swords. That's what I mean when I say Murphy's Law. It's like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Like what should have been a smooth process of just like, okay, the driver picks the swords up, they go out. It wasn't, because there was a human that made a mistake that just didn't care to scan them in. He just brought them to the factory, and they were just sitting in a UPS plant just collecting dust for 3 weeks.
Long. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Mm-hmm. What's the biggest thing that you've learned about being in business for yourself in the last, year?
The level of sacrifice, especially at the level I'm at, is a lot higher than I thought.
What are you sacrificing?
The amount of plans that I have to say no to, mostly. Sacrificing
social plans,
definitely
plans.
social plans.
Okay.
Definitely family plans. Even like plans for myself. There's a lot of days I have to skip a workout. There's a lot of days I have to be like, all right, I can't cook for myself tonight. I just need to eat something quick. Like just there's a difference between working, a 40-hour week and working all day every day.
Yeah.
Like there's no time off.
Yeah, I went to dinner tonight with my neighbor, and he's like, do you ever have like a rest day? And I was like, I don't think I've had one in a few months.
Yeah.
And like, I'm okay with that. Like, I've decided to live this life, to get to where I want to be, like, how are you so good with saying no? Like, sometimes I'll say yes to like a social plan because I'm like, oh, I really miss these guys and I want to hang out with them and with these friends, and it sets me back, and I'm just like, fuck, like I gotta pull close an all-nighter to do these things, and I regret saying yes even though I had a good time, like what keeps you saying no?
Saying yes conditionally helps a lot. Like if I do have plans, I need to make sure that it's something that I really want to do and see value in, like the cold plunges, for example.
Yesterday, the hike.
Yeah. Like that.
We got Tommy part of the Mazzatli crew, guys.
Oh yeah, I'm
sandal hiking gang,
very
bro.
sold on those. I used to do barefoot running when I was a teenager, so that was a very natural progression to get me there.
Yeah, I was impressed, dude.
Thank you. I really loved them.
Yeah.
But like the cold plunges, I said to Keenan, I think after like the third or fourth week of doing it, I was like, this is my only social activity. I'm not hanging out with people. Like this is the highlight of my day.
Yeah.
Because this is the only time I'm just like with a friend hanging out.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is jumping in a frozen lake. Like it's not like this fun activity like like going to see a movie or going out for food. We're doing something that
But isn't it a fun thing? Like, don't you enjoy it?
Oh, absolutely.
That's why you decided to do it?
Yeah.
Because I was talking to...
I guess, I mean, like, traditionally fun. Like, when I think of, like, okay, if I was going to go have, like, a leisure day
like
and...
a drink at a bar.
Exactly.
Or a date night or anything. Yeah.
Like,
movie night.
Yeah, like, the last time I really went out like that, dude, I think it was the powerlifting meet in San Diego.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you had your Christmas at your place?
Yeah, I had a friend who had a Christmas party. It was in downtown Chicago. I left the shop.
Yeah.
Went to the party for like 3 hours and went back to the shop and
you
worked
just have
another 2 hours.
Your place in
Oh yeah. I had some friends over for lunch. Since I got back to LA, I've been a lot more lax, but that's after 2.5 months of nonstop.
Yeah.
Working. Like, Christmas Day was a day off. Yesterday was a day off. Today I was editing but napping, which is weird because it's like the last 3 days have been really, really lax.
Yeah.
Which I think
probably needed.
Very much needed.
Yeah.
Taking those days is important, but I'm already like, I start to feel antsy about it, where it's like, all right, I'm not doing enough. I got to do more. I got to get back on my shit.
Where do you think that comes from, bro? Because like when someone says like you're doing too much, in my head I'm always saying I'm doing too little. I mean, like I'm not doing enough. Like, and that's why I think I resonate with you a lot every time we talk. And it's like we always brainstorm of like, oh, how can we make things better? How can we make the business better? How can like I help you and you can help me? Like
you have the quest mentality. You're asking questions, and that's something I really started to develop on my road trip. Is this mentality of like
the road trip that we talked about last podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I still feel like I'm on, by the way. It never really ended. It was just a mental shift that has just kind of been, hopefully it will just be the rest of my life, where it's this idea of I'm on a quest. And a quest is just a journey of asking questions. And I don't think there's a lot of people who live life as if they're on a quest. And you're someone who, you seek wisdom, you seek success, you seek knowledge from people who have had experiences that you desire to have, or if you know you can't have them, you desire to learn from those experiences. Yeah. So asking questions is bar none one of the most important things for improving your life. And when you have that internal drive to just keep asking questions, you don't find answers, you just find more questions.
Yeah, we bond over Alex Hormozi's content a few times. Yeah. And he talks about, I want to have the lessons without the scars, And like you telling me like all these things that you're going through right now, I'm like, okay, I need to be prepared for those. And I don't want to suffer the way you did, Yeah. Because like that's why reading Shoe Dog or like a biography about somebody, about Elon Musk or whatever person out there, if it's David Goggins or whatever person you look up to, if it's like an athlete or an artist or whatever, it's like I don't want to go through that shit that they went through.
I can give you a perfect rundown right now. If you want to find success in the digital era easily, sell a digital product that you can create once and sell indefinitely, ideally on a subscription basis. If you're not going to do that, sell a digital product that's a one-time sale. If you're not going to sell a digital product, sell a physical product where you can outsource manufacturing entirely, ideally something that already exists that you can rebrand as your own. If you're not going to do that and you're going to develop a product, make it small, sturdy, and easy to package. If you're not going to do that,
make Dragon Slayers.
Then you might be running Ashman Athletics.
Yeah, bro, it's kind of crazy because these things are huge and you're just tipping them across the world.
Like, if I could give myself advice...
Yeah. Maybe that's why you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into it, because you're like, God damn, I'm going to be making these huge-ass swords for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, like, there's a part of me that's like, this is not sustainable. Like, there is... While there's a sense of urgency to, like, get everyone their sword, there's also a sense of urgency to figure out a way to outsource this
to make your life easier.
So that I can... Not just to make my life easier, so that I can better serve my customer base. Yeah. I'll go 2 weeks without making videos now. Yeah. Because I'm just in a wood shop, and I'm like, I can't do all the above.
And are all these customers finding you just through old videos?
Old videos, and also, I'm very fortunate to have my affiliates and other influencers who've been brought on board. And
Yo, I got one sword.
yeah. And, other, the reviews are really positive. People who are getting swords are making videos. So there's outreach in that way. But I posted my first video, the day before yesterday, I think. And that was my first video in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, all of a sudden I've been in a shop all day, and that's all day, every day. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, wow. I'll look at like my YouTube analytics, and I'm like, oh, my last video was 14 days ago.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It's so interesting, the dichotomy of it, because if you look at it, the creativity aspect of the Dragon Slayer, where you're swinging this massive sword and you're doing, I would call them flows too, similar to like kettlebell flows, right? Unless you would call them a different thing. Do you call them a different thing?
I call it a flow.
Okay, like a Dragon Slayer flow, and you're doing these skill sets and flowing with it, and just testing your strengths and putting this like beautiful piece of content into the world, versus like you just in a wood shop chopping wood, priming, put it together, ship it out. And I'm just like, whoa, this is totally different, but it's the same person.
Yeah. And then like that's just the Dragon Slayer stuff.
Yeah.
Now there's also,
dude, the clubs look dope. I don't know how you thought about the shape of it. I know you posted 1 or 2 videos about them, but it's, how would you describe the shape? Like octagonal slash.
I took inspiration from the shape of like cut gems, and also from the wings of the dragonfly.
Okay.
Which is why I call them the dragonfly clubs.
Yeah.
I would love to be designing more products. Like, perfect world, I get to a point where stuff is outsourced enough, and I spend the majority of my working time designing new products and using my creative muscles, which is what I love doing. And that's also how I think I can best serve the world, is by creating products. Like, I created the Dragon Slayer at scale to do that.
Yeah, and clearly it's valuable to people because they're showing their value by just purchasing the sword. And how many swords have you sold this year?
I've sold just over 600 as of today.
If you think about 600 people in a room, bro, and them just holding their swords, that's a fuck ton of people, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's
like I'm starting to look at it, because you said that to me last time about like the viewership, and I'm like, okay, the viewership, but now I'm like actually looking at it, I'm like, wow, I wouldn't say single-handedly, because there are other people involved, but I've really led this movement of getting swords into the hands of well over 500 people in the last 11 months.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty wild feeling.
Yeah. It's kind of, what does it feel like?
Dude, it feels really good.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And even with, like, all the suck that comes with it, like, I just had a guy come by my house 2 days ago to pick up a sword. And, I opened the door. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I opened the door, and he just immediately was like, dude, you're a legend. And, like, in my head, I kind of have this moment where I'm like, he's not saying he wants to trade lives with me. He's saying I'm a legend. And I've started to realize, like, I'm doing this. I'm going through this crucible of, like, just nonstop working to make this real. And that's what makes the legend. That's what makes the story. Isn't that, like, it's not that I'm, living this luxury life and having so much fun. It's that I'm going through shit. I am the struggler. I'm just going through the shit of, like, just having to work, waking up, more work. Just, it doesn't end. But that's how it's written.
I think it's what people don't see. Like, you talking about this right now, like, entrepreneurship in the last decade has been very romanticized. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a businessman, work for myself, and like make my own money, this and that, blah blah blah. But like, there's a lot of suck that goes with. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of late nights and early mornings. And are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'd expand on that even more, and I'd say there's panic attacks that come with it. I have nights, like, I would get home from the shop, and I'm like, okay, I'm not posting enough, now sales are dropping, and now I'm freaking out because, like, okay, what if the money flow turns off? And that's scary. Like, I was having nights where I'd come home and, like, I would, like, be in the shower and my heart would start racing, and it's like shit like that.
And you would think about those things.
Yeah. because it's like, I'm paying people.
Yeah.
I have laborers coming to the shop to help me. I hired 2 people, and it's like, okay, like there were moments where I'm like, if I don't sell 2 swords, I won't be able to pay for them to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like there was really moments where I'm like, this is by the skin of my teeth that this is going to succeed.
Yeah.
The Fit Expo's coming up, and I'm like, okay, I need to sell X amount of swords in between now and then to afford
A booth.
I'm not doing a booth this year. I'm doing a space to run a class.
Okay.
But like to afford the flights for Sydney and her family to come out.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, now I really have to get on posting and making videos to drive money into the company to balance everything out. And it's like I'm constantly bailing water out of a ship.
Yeah.
And
the revenue's just filling up that water back again and bringing it back out and filling it back in and pushing it back out.
It's wild. Like I've had days where it's like, okay, I've pulled in $2,500 in sales, and the next day I've had to spend $6,000.
Yeah.
On wood and on labor and on shipping labels. It's like, whoa, the way money moves is so wild. I feel like I'm playing high stakes poker with my life savings at a table full of people whose faces I can't see. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Have you studied poker at all?
No.
So there's this book called Thinking in Bets by, I think her name's Annie Dillard, and she basically equivalates, I don't know if equivalates the right word, but compares life to a poker game, right? About bets. It's like you're betting that flying out these influencers, these people, is gonna pay off, right?
Yeah.
And like it might not, but like you're betting on it.
Yep.
Like you're putting a solid bet. You're like, oh, this shit's gonna. But that's the whole beauty of it in terms of like you don't know, but you believe it does.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I'm also betting on myself. And that's kind of the really crazy thing about this is it's really it's forced me to believe in myself.
Yeah.
Like when I just finished the last wave of production in Chicago, it definitely changed something in me mentally. Like I came back to LA this time and I feel like a different person than the person who left.
You seem like a different person. I can't really describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through some shit.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a different side of myself. I've seen a different side of other people.
Yeah. Because last time we were on the podcast, you were
I was green.
You were green. You were joyous, and you were very optimistic about life, which you're not. I mean, you're the same.
Yeah.
But like you're like, oh, like I've experienced some of that not joy of that suffering, bro. That suffering.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the suffering, and it's like the depth of the suffering that allows me to experience joy.
Yeah, it's similar to.
I think it's a Young quote that it's a tree cannot reach heaven if its roots do not go all the way down to hell.
Yeah.
But I really feel
that's so
that.
true though. Like the thing is, like you can't experience happiness if you haven't experienced sadness, right? You can't experience like love if you haven't experienced hate. Like you have to. The more extreme you experience of one emotion, the greater you could feel of the other, because you experience how shitty the other side of it is. You know.
Yeah, like I forget if I told you I got bullied a lot growing up.
Yeah, you said a little bit last time. You haven't gone into detail. Like what was this bullying like?
I'm getting ostracized by most of my peers.
Ostracized. I don't know what that means.
Just I was the odd one out a lot.
Yeah.
I was treated pretty poorly. There were like a few days that like definitely were like really, really shitty when I was in grade school growing up, and it always made me feel like I couldn't fit in and like I was different. And
like what was a shitty day?
I'll give you a key memory that lives in my head rent free. There was a day that there was a really big piece of like just dog shit on the field at recess. And some kid, I won't name his name because it doesn't matter. You know, we're like fifth graders, just kids being kids. He writes my name in it. And he comes over to me and he's like, hey, someone wrote your name in the dog shit. And I take a stick and I scratch it out. And it's like while all the kids are like being called in the moment I'm near it, he yells at the top of his lungs. He's like, yo, Tommy touched the shit. And I see the entire grade of like 120 kids screaming and running from me. And I just remember like my heart sinking. And for a really long time, that was my baseline emotion. For a lot of my childhood.
What was that emotion? Embarrassment?
Just loneliness, man.
Yeah.
Just like really being like alone.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I look at it now and it's like we were kids. Like I don't care, but like it's the emotion's real.
Yeah, the emotion's real, but also like that was a real life experience. Like I have, I don't know if I would say like I got bullied at all. Maybe I felt like I did at some points, but like your feelings are valid because you felt those things.
Yeah.
And like just because someone doesn't view you that way right now doesn't mean you don't feel that way.
Yeah, but like I mean, to go from that to what I have now, which is floods of comments of people being like, "Oh, bro's a legend. You know, this guy's so cool. He's keep going, struggler." Like just all the encouragement to have that switch to go from like, okay, I had 120 people run for me. Okay, well now I have 15 million views and thousands of comments that are all positive.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, dozens of reviews of people who've bought my product that are just writing paragraphs of how much they like it. People who are messaging me telling me they love it. And it's like, it's such a flip because it's all all one life.
Is that experience a motivator to run to like not to prove those people wrong, or is it a motivator in the sense of like you're running away from it and I'm gonna
Neither. It's just an experience that happened that broadens my character. That's really all it is now to me. You know, it doesn't I don't take any of it personally.
Yeah.
Which is also why I think I don't take a lot of like when I see people with the Dragon Slayer personally. I don't take the negative personally,
or the
and
positive.
I don't take the positive personally.
Huh.
It's all external coming in. It definitely makes me smile ear to ear. Like I'll see a review or a message sometime and I'm just like, man, I can't not smile.
Sure.
Looking at even thinking about it, you see me smiling. But
Yeah.
like, it's outside of me. This person independently decided to reach out to me and tell me that they like the product I made them.
Yeah.
But it's not a reflection of like my soul and my character as a person. It's a reflection of a product that I made. So for me to look at that review as my value as a character, I don't feel would be accurate.
How would you measure your value then?
Internally, am I okay with me? That's the big thing. You know, it's am I okay with how I spend my waking hours? Like yesterday, perfect example. I really loved that I got to spend time in nature yesterday, that I went on a hike, that I dunked in the cold for 20 minutes, met new people, got inspired. You know, that was a great day. I'm really glad that if I had that day back, I would do it the same way over and over again.
Day well spent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really how I measure my character and my internal sense of self is it's just the story. You know, whatever story I'm telling myself is going to be my reality. So it's really about, am I happy with the story I'm telling myself? Am I upholding the values that I find importance in? Consistency being the most important one. Integrity, honesty, you know, putting my all into whatever I'm doing. You know, if I'm upholding that, I feel good about myself. If I'm not doing those things, then I start to feel bad about myself. But as long as I know I'm doing the things that are making me feel good with truth and making me feel, you know, one with God and one with the universe and one with just positive energy, yeah, I'm happy with that.
But I'm saying like sometimes your work ethic's very admirable in the sense of just you just don't stop and you gotta get the job done. Like 70 swords, 250 swords, bro.
Yeah.
Like just you alone.
Yeah.
Like what kept you going?
Well, I'm hiring people now,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I'm leading it, which is, that's also something that's kind of funny is I think having worked for people and now hiring people, I think it is infinitely harder to hire and manage people.
What do you look for in when you hire people? Like, are you just looking for someone to get the job done, or actually looking for characteristics in the person to get the job done?
I mean, because it's just base labor, you know, I'm just looking for someone who's, you know, not on drugs, seems, you know, somewhat consistent.
Low bar.
Yeah, it's a pretty low bar, you know, it's base labor. It's, hey,
Yeah.
can you pack a box? And can you do so properly?
And you
Can
do
take
it with, you're
construction?
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm there. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
can I trust you to be around my wood shop and around power tools and not, like, try to make off with something? Like, you know, I'm just looking for that.
Yeah.
I put out a Craigslist ad. And I had
Craigslist
maybe...
is still alive and well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had... Here's actually a cool story. So I put out a Craigslist ad. I get like 40 responses.
40. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you put out a gig ad on Craigslist, you'll get a lot of responses. People
Wow.
are on Craigslist looking for work.
Wow.
Especially if you put cash pay.
Cash pay.
Yeah.
Under the table, baby.
Yeah, you know, you put that out there. People will respond. You try it. It costs $7 to put an ad on Craigslist for a gig. You just put whatever you want. See how many replies you get. You'll get a lot like that. But a lot of them immediately, I'm like, oh, this person, just red flags just popping off.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody didn't text me with good grammar, I wouldn't even reply.
That makes sense.
Right off the bat, I'm just like, you know, if you don't have grammar, you're not going to be around power tools.
Yeah.
Um,
What are you most excited for in your life right now, bro?
the Fit Expo.
Fit Expo?
I'm really excited to run the Fit Expo.
What are the plans for
next
2024 with Ashman?
Ideally, outsource manufacturing
Mm-hmm.
and make my personal focus more around content and designing new products.
Yeah. What would your day-to-day look like if you had to decide right now?
If I had to decide right now, wake up ideally about 30 minutes before the sun rises, be outside for the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I can't watch sunrise. In Chicago, I can. But cold plunge early morning, workout early morning, and be eating breakfast by like 8 a.m. after cold plunge and workout. From there, get into maybe 4 to 8 hours of like really deep work where I'm either designing products, creating content, editing, just all that throughout the day. Have a lunch break somewhere in there. Have dinner and like meaningful time with friends and family. That would be
Every
pretty
day.
ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of like if you had to choose like one thing that's your favorite of the Ashman products to make or to do? Is it the content? Is it the sword making? Is it the programming? Is it whatever? Like what's the favorite part?
You know, I really like making like the really intricate replica swords. That really gets like my artist brain moving.
Intricate replica swords.
Yeah, like I just did it's a replica of Asta's sword from Black Clover. I think it's called the Grimoire.
Is that like an anime series?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny. I haven't even watched it. I feel like a fake fan right now. But yeah, I made a replica of that for Sean at and that was really cool. I had to figure out a way to make a crossguard for it.
Yeah.
And I reinforced it with metal.
I think I saw it. Yeah.
And I did like 3 coats of spray paint to give it like a really intricate paint job. So just all that stuff is really cool, and I'm really excited to like do more replicas and kind of design more of my own products beyond just the Dragon Slayer.
Did you ever make a sword for Mike O'Hearn?
Yeah, so I made it.
Yeah.
He's someone who's also insanely busy.
Yeah.
So his sword is just in my closet.
Oh, you're just waiting.
And yeah, as soon as he's available, we will make that video. But I can't wait to give it to him because it's just like...
Isn't it crazy that this anime sword that you've made and turned into real life that a lot of anime people are using to like work out and stuff or being held by some of the biggest bodybuilders of all time?
Yeah, it's a wild feeling that it's like, you know, it's such a tangible thing that like anybody sees it and knows like, oh, this is like...
It sticks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like for some reason your eyes just gravitate towards it. And you're like, oh, what's going on over there?
Yeah, and it's
know?
very cool like to see someone who gets how to use it and can really flow with it. There's something very captivating about like just this object moving, and it's like it's this cross between like sign spinning and like martial arts, and it really does just look like mastery of strength.
Yeah. That's something what I get about the kettlebell flows. I don't understand why I love it so much, but I could do it for hours.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to like master this one movement in it.
I mean, you're getting really good at
Thank
it.
you,
like,
dude. I appreciate
considering you only started this year, right?
Started about 4 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
doing some pretty crazy stuff, and you're
Yeah.
throwing around the 16 kilogram, the pink one.
Yeah, so the pink one is the one I used to practice.
Yeah.
And like the blue one, which is about 32 pounds, 32, 33.
Yeah, that's
and
real deal.
then I flipped the, I think 62 pound or something around those long with 2 hands. And I use that as a workout.
Yeah.
Like I use that as a workout at the end.
So I was only trained in kettlebells in a very traditional kettlebell sport sense.
Kettlebell swing.
Yeah, it was just like, not even swings. We didn't even train
Squats.
swings. We just trained clean and jerk,
Okay.
clean and jerk separately,
Yeah.
and snatch.
Yeah.
And that was like the primary training that we were
Okay.
doing. And there wasn't a lot of focus on the other stuff. Like, we'd burn out with some squats with the kettlebell over our shoulder,
Yeah.
but like, there wasn't a lot of that.
What's your fitness routine right now?
Make swords 32 times a day.
And then swing a sword.
Yeah, and then swing a sword. No, I'm doing a lot of calisthenics now.
Okay.
I've been
Oh
in
yeah,
and
you
out of the
dragon
weight room.
squats.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I injured my shoulder last time I was in Los Angeles. I think I told you. I
Tommy had
fell
a fall on his Vespa, baby.
Yeah.
The road got him.
10 out of 10 do not recommend falling on your moped or motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, and like, God. Also, driving it in the rain though might have not been the smartest move.
No, but I was already in East LA, and I'm like, all right, well, I have to get home, so it is what it is. And
How has it been? I'm sorry about that. We'll continue to do that real quick. But the fitness stuff, calisthenics. How has it been? Just doing calisthenics stuff versus you were doing strongman, you were doing some bodybuilding, everything.
It feels like I'm getting back to my roots.
Okay.
And also doing shoulder rehab is getting back to my roots.
Yeah.
Calisthenics is great because my body feels great after a workout.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very rejuvenating style of training. You know, I don't feel, it's not the same kind of soreness. I'm not getting the same kind of hypertrophy, but I definitely see myself progressing, and I see my balance improving.
Yeah.
I see my muscle endurance improving.
Aesthetically, bro, you don't look much different at all.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you've maintained your muscle mass.
I've been active, and I've been eating super healthy.
Yeah.
The diet is this, like, past few months has really made me realize how important diet is.
What's your diet like?
I'm pretty strict on the carnivore diet, and I'm also really strict on, like, everything being organic, everything.
Any fruits? Or is it
Oh,
just
yeah.
meat? Okay.
I kind of somewhere between, like, carnivore and paleo.
Okay.
And when I do eat pastas and, like, grains and stuff, I make sure it's either, like, you know, whole wheat organic or imported from Italy or something.
Yeah.
That's, like, the one thing that I, like, pay up for. Like, I'm willing to go through, like, any amount of suffering. Like, when I'm in my wood shop, I don't have a bathroom. I piss in a bottle and pour it down a storm drain.
What?
Yeah. Put that in my shoe dog book.
Yeah, that's crazy,
But that's how I ran.
In a storm
that.
drain?
Yeah, just a little drain.
You don't throw it out in the trash? You
No,
decide to pour
I
it out
just
of?
empty it and reuse it.
Reuse it?
Yeah.
There's no bathroom.
No.
Dude. That's different.
Yeah, it just is what it is. Or like when I'm in LA, I ride a moped because it's just cheaper than having a car. Like my level of comfort that I require to exist
In the world.
yeah, is very low.
Yeah.
And if that's what I need, if that's a cost I can cut so that I can have more money in my company,
Yeah.
then I will do that. But I don't skip on food because food is how I perform at the optimum level.
What got you on the carnivore diet?
Trial and error, in all honesty. I've tried a bunch of different diets.
Yeah.
I wanted to try carnivore this year. I feel amazing on it.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be easy. I did it for, I think, like a month and a half. And, like, it was really difficult for me.
Really?
Like, in the sense of, like, I craved, like, carbs. Like,
Interesting.
I craved, like, strict carnivore. Like, just steak, bacon,
Well,
eggs.
I did strict carnivore for a month, and then I started
Ground beef.
to bring more carbs in. I think as long as you're doing really clean carbs, fruit, you know, long grain wild rice, stuff like that, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And especially with as much as you're running and as active as you are, you do need carbohydrates.
Yeah.
I think there's
Well, that's one thing I learned about in the 30 mile. Like, it was the first time, like, training up for it. We talked about it. Instead of Gatorade, I switched to water, maple syrup, and salt.
Yeah.
Right, throughout. And then I would always, on the hour, every hour, I would take, like, one salt pill. And I would take, like, a handful of just, like, potato chips or something and carb up. Like, I didn't realize how important carbs were because I just thought running was a mental thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're a tough guy. Like, you could just, like, mental it out. But then I'd always get cramps.
No, it's chemistry.
Yeah. Like,
You know,
your body's an organism that needs to be fed and replenished.
It's a bio machine
Yeah.
that requires fuel. And, you know, if you can get the fuel chemistry right, you can perform at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing for success in general, is just getting your nutrition right. Like I see people who are my age, who are a little bit older, burning out, and so much of it is they're just eating a lot of processed food.
I was ignorant, bro. I was definitely ignorant. I thought it was definitely a huge mental thing. I was like, you're a tough kid. Like, you're a tough guy. Like, you could just get through it. You could get through these nights of work hard. Like, dude, I haven't got sick in so long.
Yeah.
I was like, you're just eating properly and taking supplements. Like, you're taking your vitamin D's and fish oils, and you're getting in the right amount of protein and vegetables and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
But I mean, that loops back to like other kind of like viral ideas, like even with like entrepreneurship, like, you know, the carnivore diet really, really strict is pushed, or the keto diet really, really strict is pushed. Same things with like entrepreneurship, where it's like, you know, this idea of being, you know, like a digital entrepreneur, make millions of dollars copywriting for businesses, or, you know, drop shipping, or all these things, that these ideas are pushed. And I don't think that's the best message to be pushing to impressionable young entrepreneurs who are ambitious, is this idea of like, oh, you can make a fortune drop shipping, or, you know, having a ghost YouTube channel, or whatever it is. It's like, no, like, push the idea of learning a real skill, something that you can do with your own two hands, like being a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber or something real.
Yeah, these skills are definitely diminishing. Like,
and they're in demand because they're
huge
diminishing.
Demand. Yeah.
You know, like, did you see the thing about the Buc-ee's in Texas?
No.
That's willing to pay like $125,000 a year for a manager.
A Buc-ee's?
A Buc-ee's.
I mean, Buc-ee's are pretty legit, though. They're pretty big.
But like, still.
You guys don't know what Buc-ee's are? It's how would you describe them?
It's like a mix between a gas station and a mini mall.
Yeah, it's like the most luxurious gas station, 7-Eleven type of deal. Like, there's art pieces and there's really good food. Like, there's clothing. Like, $125K for a Buc-ee's?
Yeah, it's in like rural Texas, and it's like, you know, like in that area, like if you're in rural Texas, $125K, that's a lot of money for that area. So it's like, you know, the job shortage is so real, and part of it is, you know, where we're at as a society, but another part of it is like this idea of, it's not get rich quick, it's get rich lazy. That's being pushed onto people. Yeah, and that's one. I think it's so harmful.
I think the mentality of entrepreneurs. Super harmful in the sense of like, I still work in the hospitality industry. I'm trying to get out, and I know I can, and it's very inspirational. You know how you said you're betting on yourself? Like, you bet on yourself all the time. I don't think I've had the courage to fully 100% bet on myself, because I'm still 1 or 2 days at the bar when I don't need to be. Yeah. I'm just like, that's my, like, I know I'm going to make some money there.
Yeah, but it's a tether. But like,
it's a tether.
It's good to have. It keeps you in reality.
And networking too. It's good. Yeah. Good networking. What were we talking about right before this? I was about to get into it.
The Buc-ee's.
Oh yeah. So lazy success.
Get rich lazy.
And back to the hospitality, I see these servers, right? Back in when I was working at a really high-end restaurant, complain about just the most minuscule stuff. And I was like, yo, you're making $500-$600 a night writing down an order. Yeah. Picking up some plates off a table and writing an order and picking up plates off a table, when there are, I want to say, millions of people out there, like, working harder than you, in cleaning toilets, putting beds in hotels, like with kids.
Probably hundreds of millions.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
I don't
If
know the
not
numbers,
billions.
so I don't want to like say the exact numbers, but like, and you're over here complaining about the most minuscule stuff in a restaurant,
Yeah.
like, and you're just taking orders.
Yeah.
Like you're just putting pen to paper and just taking plates off the table and being personable. Like,
Well, a lot of it's mental and like who you're comparing yourself to. You know, if you're a server in Lavo, you are seeing A-list celebrities, millionaires, billionaires on a regular basis. So you're comparing your $500-$600 a night to some of the most successful people on the planet. So that's a very warped perception of reality. Now you take that same person and you put them in a room with people who are making half of what they're making.
Yeah.
They're gonna feel like the most successful person on the planet.
sure.
So it's a lot of that is just how the human mind takes its surroundings in and spits them back out into the internal story.
Yeah.
You know, that's also just strength of character and like, you know, who's going to make it and who isn't. Have you read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
I have not.
I think we talked about that on the last time I was here.
What was it about?
It's this dialogue between Napoleon Hill and the devil. And it's just like
That's the guy of
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich,
yeah.
right.
I think it's actually a better book.
Outwitting
One
the
of
Devil.
it's really just this dialogue of how like the devil, which is just this basically a personification of all negative energy and how he captures people. And it's this concept of drifting. And drifting is just this idea of just kind of coasting through life and not being in charge of your own destiny. And he talks about just how he gets people to drift, and he talks about how 98% of people are inevitably going to end up being drifters, and only 2% of people are actually going to take control of their own destiny. And internalizing that was really, really difficult for me, because growing up, you want to believe, or I wanted to believe, that, you know, all my friends are going to make it. They're all going to succeed. We're all going to be successful together. We're all going to raise our kids together. And I'm starting to see people fall off. I'm starting to see people
What's your definition of success?
being in charge of my own destiny.
Okay.
I would say that's the biggest thing.
Because since the last time we talked, you've been talking a lot about the monetary aspects of success.
I think there's a monetary cost to success based on the economic state of the world.
Okay.
And then there's just varying levels of luxury that you can have within that. I think to have, you know, a level of freedom that would be happy for most people, which is like, okay, you can afford rent in a nice place, you can afford to have kids, you can afford to travel once a month, ideally with your partner, and you probably need about $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
But that's one level.
That's
of success,
interesting that you say
know?
that, though, because I was talking to a friend of mine, or my business partner, a while back, and we agreed that $60,000 a year was all it took to be happy.
Yeah, but it's varying levels of happiness, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much luxury do you need? And it's also, do you need to travel? And what, like, $60,000 a year if you are a single guy with very few standards of, like, you know, what do I need to do to make myself happy? If you want to take a trip to another country once a month, you need $30K a month.
Yeah.
You need to be able to afford your place. You need to be able to afford good food. You need to be able to afford, you know, your various expenses. It costs money.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking from the perspective of wanting to put money away every month for
Sure.
retirement, but that's a number. Now, say I also want to own a Ferrari,
Yeah.
which I really don't, but just the first supercar I think of. Now that $30K a month is $50K a month.
Isn't it crazy that the vision of success is always that red Ferrari?
Yeah, because it's commercialized.
It's like a representation of like money.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's great marketing.
Great marketing.
You know, like, but if you're into designer clothes and you're into nice cars and you want to have a boat, suddenly that number goes up. So that's what I mean by like varying levels of luxury, and the difference between success and luxury are really important.
Sure.
don't care much for luxury. I think I'd like the experience of owning a supercar at some point because I think it'd be cool. I don't think it's something I need. I'd like to drive one. I'll probably just join a car club and rent one if I can ever afford that.
Well, the thing is, like, have you read the 4-Hour Workweek at all with Tim Ferriss?
I started it. I started the audiobook, and I was like, wait, this is really good. I want to actually read this, and I haven't fully read it yet.
So there's a part in it. It's basically writing down, like, the things you actually want and desire. So, for example, if it is having a Ferrari, and that's important on the top of your head, like, how's the fastest way to get there? And the thing is, like, it's a way less complicated than you think. You know, like, it might be only leasing a Ferrari, or his example wasn't a Ferrari, it was a Lamborghini, but I think at the time it was around $1,100 a month to rent out this Lamborghini. If that was on the top of your like wish list of like importance to you, like you value this so much, you could definitely figure out how to get $1,100 a month to rent a Lamborghini. You could do it tomorher.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like if you decide not to go out every single day and like eat the food that you want, like if you value having a Lamborghini more than the food that goes into your body, you could be eating like $5 a day, like beans and rice, you know, and you could afford this Lamborghini tomorrow.
Yeah. That's the thing. My priority is food.
Exactly.
That is where I spend
100%
my money.
Yeah.
When I think about it.
Yeah. So that's exactly what you value.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have a supercar if you wanted to.
Like I don't have any car in Los Angeles. I have a Chinese moped.
Yeah, you're rocking it, bro. It's very inspiring when I see you go. This dude Tommy drove from West Side to the Valley to do this podcast with a moped, bro. It's impressive.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I don't even think of it as impressive. It's just like it's something that
it's different. So when I see you do that, I'm like, whoa, that's like a cool ass journey.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously the journey here, but also like just this place in your life for the story, bro.
Yeah, well that's the thing. I'm really invested in my story in this moment. And this is a conversation I was having yesterday with Sir. We were talking about
with who?
Sergio.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about the collective consciousness. And that also loops back to outwitting the devil. But
could you define the collective consciousness?
The collective consciousness is it's the empathic sense that you get from the people that you surround yourself with.
Okay. That makes you conform to whatever group you're in.
And it can either be an extremely positive thing or an extremely negative thing. And it's one of the most powerful forces in the universe, I believe. The other one that I think I spend a lot more time with is infinite intelligence.
Okay.
And that's another thing that Napoleon Hill talks about. And infinite intelligence is the creative ether that flows freely throughout the universe. And that's where I try to tune into as much as possible. It's where I think my creative sense comes from.
Can you repeat that again?
The infinite intelligence. It's probably the closest thing to God that I could comprehend. And it's this purely positive creative energy that's flowing freely throughout everything.
Yeah.
And it's where I try to kind of tune my mind into as much as possible. It's why I pray. It's why I meditate. It's why I'm able to have faith in myself and what I'm doing. It's where I think all of my ideas come from. There's the collective consciousness is how I keep myself going. It's, how I get. Yesterday, I was talking to Sergio about how it'd be really difficult to do something like this alone, to just go trudge 10 miles out into the woods and jump in
a freezing cold
river, but like it's really easy to do with people.
I never thought about that. You're completely right.
Yeah, because now we're all carrying the psychological willpower load together.
The suffering together.
Exactly.
I heard you say that behind me when we were running, and I was like, what the fuck are these two talking about?
Yeah. Versus...
So that's the collective consciousness, or is that the...
That's collective consciousness.
Okay.
Infinite intelligence is what keeps me going when I'm just alone. Yeah. And it's just me and the work that has to be done.
Yeah. What do you learn from being alone? Because you talked about how you felt alone a lot of part of your life because of the bullying and all that stuff as well.
Being alone just teaches you about yourself.
Yeah.
It teaches you. It taught me about myself, and it taught me about the universe. I've always been someone who is having a conversation with reality throughout my whole life, and I found that like if I'm thinking something, my reality will reflect it to me very quickly, and that's just something that happens. Like when I'm alone, things happen to me. Like the other day, I went and did a cold plunge by myself back in Chicago, and there was a swan on the
lake.
beach. Yeah.
Okay.
And
is this the one that you saved?
yeah, like there's just a swan on it. Like just, whenever I do something alone, something happens.
Yeah.
And so it was a day that the group couldn't really get together, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm still going to do it. And because I went out there that day, I was given the opportunity by God to help save this swan that was stranded out on the beach that had gotten like lost during its migration or something. And that's just like an example of like something that happens, or like whenever I do something alone, things just happen. And I think I told you the story about the pool table on the side of the highway.
Yeah, you talked about it on the last podcast.
Happened. So it's just like a consistent theme of how my life goes. Where like I'll be alone and I'll have this conversation with reality, where my internal monologue and reality are interacting. And that's a really cool thing. It's also why I like riding the moped a lot.
Can you explain the internal reality, having a conversation with reality in your internal thoughts, whatever you said? Like, what do you mean by that? Because, like, when I'm alone, like, I have thoughts and I write them down, and, like, I'm like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, just because I have the space and, like, not distraction of doing it. But I don't think I have, like, a conversation with reality. Like, what do you mean? Because as someone who doesn't experience that experience, I guess, like, it's hard to relate to that.
It's like things will just happen that will strike a very deep chord with me. Like, there was a day a few years ago during my road trip that I was in Florida. I was in Delray Beach, and during my road trip I hadn't really been practicing martial arts. It was a lot of it was like a time of healing for me, because the way my relationship with my seafood went had kind of made me feel sour about my experience with martial arts as a whole. And a lot of my road trip was healing from that. And I'm walking, through Delray Beach alone, and even though I was, around people, I was in a very alone phase of my life. Not lonely, but alone. Like, I was really...
Physically.
Yeah, I was just in my own experience. I was living in my car and traveling and just seeing places. And there happened to be people there, but they weren't like... It wasn't like I was with them. Does that make sense? There's these two guys having a conversation. They're drunk, hanging out. And the one guy, as I'm walking past, stops, looks at me, and just goes, "Don't forget your martial arts." I can't even make this shit up, man. It's just like... Stuff like that just happens to me.
That's cool.
He has no idea who... Like, I stopped. I'm like, how did you know to say that to me? Like, what? And he's like, "The world's a dangerous place. You can't forget that, man." And I'm just like... But, like, out of all the people he could have, like, said something random to, he, like, looked at me and said that to me. And it's just like...
And what do you take from that experience?
That I'm interacting with reality.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just like, whatever's going on internally with me, I'm communicating with reality. And sometimes reality uses other people to say stuff to me. And I don't... maybe that sounds totally crazy, but that's just something I've seen. It's the same thing like with the pool table, where it's like that was...
I don't think it sounds crazy. I think it's just like unrelatable. Like when you say that, I'm just like, wow, like that's such a cool experience. Like I don't believe that I have experienced life in that way, or I have not been open to experiencing life that way, I guess. Because like obviously someone could say something to you and you could just ignore it, and maybe it's the martial arts thing, and then you're like, oh, like you could either just ignore it, or you're like, oh, I was just thinking about my relationship with my sifu, and this was the reality of it,
Yeah, and it's weird because it kind of contradicts what I said earlier about like not taking things personally, because at the same time I'm taking things very personally, but I'll take like the randomness stuff really personally. Like when I saved the swan, I'm like, why was I given the opportunity to help save this bird? There was another day on my road trip where I saved a turtle that was stuck in the road. And it's just like, okay, I've just like saving animals has been like a thing that's happened a few times in my life.
Yeah.
It's happened a handful of times, but it's just like, it's something that I like whenever it happens, I'm like really grateful for the experience.
Are you scared of some animals?
Yeah. like a bear? Yeah.
Okay. I guess like, I don't know, you see a snake, like do you jump?
I mean, like if it was in the room with me, maybe.
Like if you're on a trail?
No.
There's this Instagram guy I follow. His name's Modern Tarzan on Instagram. Have you followed him?
Yeah.
Crazy shit. This guy's like wrestling with alligators, like these crazy frogs and everything like that. And he works with I don't know, whatever his organization is or whatever it is, to like save all these animals. And I guess I'm so detached from nature in that aspect. I feel like I run these mountains and stuff. I see coyotes here and there. I see a snake here and there. But all these exotic animals and stuff, they're just like in my head, not existent. Like unless they're on like a TV screen.
Have you ever seen a moose?
No.
Dude, when I lived in Montana, I saw...
What part of Montana did you live in?
Huron, Montana.
Okay. I just went to go visit Montana 2 weeks ago.
I saw
3 weeks
a
ago.
baby moose there once.
Okay.
And it was a young moose, and I could tell. It just ran past the building I was in.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that thing's big.
Yeah.
They're really big, man. They like a baby moose is like bigger than a horse.
Yeah.
They're huge. And there's something about certain animals like that really scare. Big animals scare me. Like, swans, snakes. I mean, a poisonous snake is scary. Yeah, like I can't say I feel happy when there's a bee in the room, but like I don't freak out. But like when there's a big animal, it's a very like deep, like in my belly sense of fear where I'm like, man, the thought of this thing like not wanting me to live, it's really scary. Like
I feel like that's why I try to get into these trails a lot weekly, because I feel like I'm so out of touch with nature.
Yeah.
Like I live in this big city. We live in this big city of LA, and we're not stuck, but like we are encompassed by all these challenges that we feel like it's like growing our social media following, or it's like growing our sales in this product and this and that. And like, there's this just big world of nature that doesn't give a fuck about any of that.
There's the world of clocks and there's the world without clocks. Yeah.
And it's just they exist and they live and they are figuring out what to eat, and like it's nature.
Yeah. That's why I like the ocean a lot.
Yeah.
Especially like at night or before sunrise. When I do ocean plunges before sunrise, it's scary. Especially if there's waves. Like there is a sense of dread when I go into the water.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, and like I go in there and I'm like, I don't want to be in here right now. I can't see anything. It's loud. No. The waves are crashing.
You don't know what's under you.
I don't know what's under me. I don't know what's around me. Yeah. I hear screaming coming from the shore because I'm in Venice and there's a crackhead. I don't know if that's a crackhead or a bird or like, it's just...
my first surfing experience was 4:30 a.m. on Sunset right off of Malibu.
Yeah.
And it was just me and my buddy, and I'm so happy he was there with me. We decided to go early, and it's dark.
Yeah.
And you're just going out into the ocean, and this fin hits his board, and we thought it was a shark. We were like flipping up, bro. And it was a dolphin. It was a dolphin. Thank God it was a dolphin. And then there was like fish jumping up, and we were just screaming like little girls, guys. Like, we're like, I don't even try to imitate ourselves, but we were so scared, and we're grown ass men, like 23, 24 at the time. And
I get stuck on the North Sea TikTok now. That's like my guilty scroll pleasure.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like the most dangerous sea in the world, just crazy waves. Like I'll watch those videos sometimes of like, yachts getting flipped and stuff like that. And it just makes me realize just like how powerful nature is.
Unforgiving too, right?
Unforgiving.
It's like, if it catches you, you're gone.
Yeah. And it's not even like emotional. It's not like it has malice. It just is chaos.
Yeah. It's not just chaos, it's also like peace too. Like if you look at an ocean that's just very smooth,
Yeah.
you know, or the sky, you look at the stars. I wrote this tweet a long time ago, but it was somewhere thing along the lines of like the ocean and the stars have been my biggest teacher.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense of realizing how small you are.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that reminds me of something you said. There was a day that I was cold plunging, and Lake Michigan was really wavy.
Yeah.
And you told me I was at war with Mother Nature, and I said no, I'm making peace with it.
Yeah.
And that's also something I really got out of the plunges, was not looking at it like I'm trying to like conquer this cold, conquer this sensation.
But you are
like,
though.
No, I'm not conquering. I'm surrendering to it.
If you surrender with it too much though, like you could just let it go and like you could let it take you.
Maybe. But that's part of what surrendering is accepting that risk. Like that is surrendering, is understanding that like I'm not in control.
Yeah.
Like I'm going into those waves knowing that like if Lake Michigan really wanted to take me, it would.
Yeah.
I lost one of my best friends to Lake Michigan when I was
Really?
19. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, he capsized with another friend of mine. I saw him the night before.
Wow.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Sebastian.
Yeah.
You know,
R.I.P.,
he's
buddy.
a huge part of who I am today.
How was losing a friend at age 19?
Horrible.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience. It was really, really sad, and it made me totally question like my priorities and everything. It made me realize how fragile life was.
What did it make you realize about your priorities?
It made me take like long-term planning a lot less seriously, and it made me a lot more invested in just doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the
And
biggest...
doing what I want to do in the moment. Like at that time, I was in college. I was going to school for acting in stage combat, and that was just something that I just really wanted to do.
You just do it.
Yeah.
Because life is short.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, if I want to do this, I'm gonna do it. And ended up not liking it, so I switched paths.
Yeah.
And it helped me. It helped me get comfortable with the idea of changing something or changing what I'm doing, and also doing things in their entirety. And I think that's something that also I would say to you is, you know, you want to work for yourself, do it in its entirety.
Yeah.
You know that it is inevitable that you're going to have to leave your bar job. Mm-hmm. It has to happen. For you to get to the next stage, you can't keep doing both. You're going to have to end it.
Yeah.
And yeah, enjoy it while you're there. You know, when the nights you're there, be there entirely. But understand, like, it's because it's limited, you can be there entirely. And then it's just a part of your story, and it's a memory you can look back on and draw from, but it's not going to be who you are forever. And that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah, I think I also just look at it as like, I'm a very optimistic person. So I look at the nights there, and you're like, oh, I'm networking with people. I'm enjoying making this art form in terms of like this liquid art form that makes people crazy when you give them enough of it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And you get to see every different aspects of people's lives, you know, like a couple NBA coaches came in, or like these pretty Instagram models, or this guy who just took this girl on her first date, like seeing and learning from them too. Like it's definitely a lesson,
Yeah.
but also it's sacrificing. Like in the back of my head, you know how you said like I should be doing more with like things I want to do. That's always back there.
Exactly.
You know, but yeah, I appreciate you saying that though.
Yeah, and I mean, it's as long as you're getting something from it,
Yeah.
and you feel like you still need that thing, do it. But at some point, that back of the head voice is going to get louder and louder and louder, and it's going to get to a point where you can't ignore it. And once it's there, just listen. And you'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
You know, like you have a very good intuition with your stuff. Obviously, you're doing fantastic.
Yeah.
The podcast is growing. You've built out your personal training. You tripled your clientele since we last talked.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
So
back to your topic about like death, you know.
yeah.
It's been one of my greatest teachers in the sense of like I lost my aunt in second grade, and seeing that and losing a few friends in high school and seeing some crazy things, it's just like one day all of us are going to be gone.
Yeah.
You know, and you shouldn't do anything, but you should just do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Because one day you're not going to be able to do the things you want to do.
Yeah. And not just all of us are going to be gone. All the people who knew us are going to be gone. All the people who remembered us are going to be gone. You know, if we're really lucky, I shouldn't even say that, because I don't think it's if we're lucky. When we're dead, it won't matter. We won't care. I just thought about this today. I have you saw me reading the Daily Stoic, the Daily Stoic Journal. The question today is who's going to remember 100 years from now. And I thought, you know, at first I thought if I'm lucky, and it's not if I'm lucky. If I work hard enough, maybe my grandkids will be lucky. They'll be the ones who are lucky because they had a grandfather who worked really hard.
Yeah.
But you know, it's thinking about death on a regular basis.
I think about it almost every day.
I try to every day.
You try to every day.
Yeah.
I don't think I try to do it. I think it just comes up.
I mean, it's... I wouldn't say I just, like, think about it. Like, I meditate with it. Like, I actually think about it. Like, yeah, this could be my last day. Like, even on the way here, like, I'm riding my moped and I'm thinking, like, I might not make it there.
Yeah.
I might not make it home. And I have faith that I will. You know, I certainly hope I will. But I'm not totally in control of that. And that's...
No, you could just get hit.
Yeah. I almost did on the way here. There's a car that pulled in front of me when I was heading north on Sepulveda. There's a car that pulled in front of me. They were pulling into a gas station. I had to, like, you know, I could slow down and see it, but I was like, you know, it was 30, 40 feet off from being a collision at, you know, 40 miles an hour, which that's a lot.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah. Speaking
That's
of falls
more than
and
enough.
like hurting yourself, how are you rehabbing your shoulder? What's the process?
I started really light. So first it was just doing Australian scapular pulls.
Okay, what are
which
those?
is,
Just like similar to like Australian pull-ups?
Australian pull-up, I'm just doing a scapular pull.
Okay.
Just doing that.
So arms stay straight?
Yeah, arms stay straight.
If you guys don't know what Tommy's talking about, so basically you put a barbell or like a low pull-up bar and you're hanging down in like a upside down plank position and you're pulling your scapula down with your arm straight.
Yeah, so just focusing, keeping my body super stiff. And when I do it, I really focus on turning my elbows or externally rotating my shoulders like that when I do it. So that way I'm not just hanging out like this. I really focus on that. And then just getting like full scapular contraction, letting it go all the way down, really focusing on just slow controlled reps, working those. Towel pull-ups, phenomenal exercise. I think one of my favorites. And that's where I'm laying on my stomach. I hold a towel out about shoulder width apart. I'm actively trying to rip the towel apart. And then I'm just doing...
Lying on the ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm doing pull-ups with it, like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll just alternate behind my head and in front of my head.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Superman, but, you know, trying to pull a towel apart. Great for building tension back there.
Because a lot of people have like shoulder problems and they just accept that they have shoulder problems.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I've never been able to accept it. And, like, I think it's really attainable for everyone to be living pain-free.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who Casey Neistat is?
Yeah.
So I think a couple decades ago he had this like knee surgery and the doctor said he couldn't be able to run again, and like I think last week he broke a 3-hour marathon.
Wow.
You know, and he just was like didn't accept that his knee was gonna be shit.
Yeah,
you know, just like I'm gonna rehab this guy. Like I don't believe you.
My dad just had a full knee replacement.
Yeah.
While I was home.
Okay.
So
is he doing all right?
Yeah, he's doing fantastic. I'm watching him rehab his knee. I had a lot of clients with knee replacements at Stretch Lab. My dad is running his rehab better than a pro athlete is. He quit drinking entirely. He's eating an anti-inflammatory diet. He's going to physical therapy 3 times a week. He's doing exercises for his knee every day, all the mobilization stuff. He's stretching his hips. He's stretching his calves. He's doing everything. And he's icing his knee 8 hours a day. Just all day. He he has an ice sleeve on it, or he's icing it on the couch. Just
Dude, your dad seems like a
constantly.
character.
Oh, he's absolutely a character.
In business and in life. Like, you seem so admirable of your dad.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge part of who I am. He's an extremely impactful person. I mean, both my grandfather and my father have played such a huge role in who I am, and I think that's something I'm incredibly lucky to have, you know. And that's why I think about, like, you know, who do I want to be for my kids one day, and who do I want to sculpt myself into. It's part of why I'm so invested in the story, is because one day that's all I'll really be, is just a story to tell the next generation.
All of a sudden, like, and within the last, I guess 6 months, or since you did the first podcast, like, you've never really told your story.
Yeah.
Like, you've kind of been quiet, you know, and like, you've just been this guy swinging swords on TikTok and stuff like that.
I'm starting to get more comfortable.
Yeah. How does it feel like to, like, I guess,
with
like,
the idea of
share
that.
share yourself to the world? Have you been enjoying it?
It's cool. You know, I'm getting comfortable with it. You know, I'm starting just by talking about shoulder rehab. I hope that as I get more comfortable putting myself out there, I'll be able to talk more about, like, you know, personal development, like life experiences that I've gone through that have really built me as a character.
Yeah.
And I think as I get more successful, those stories will be more sought after.
Yeah.
I think
Well, it's not just that too. Like, you're a young man. You're 25 years old.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who would see me and be like, you don't have shit to say, you're 25.
Yeah, I mean, both of us, right?
Yeah.
You know.
But, like, you and I both know that's not true, but also just based on how the world works, we do have to prove that our story is worth telling for people to want to listen.
Yeah.
You know, that story of being bullied and now me being where I'm at has some value.
Sure.
But it will have a lot more value if Ashman Athletics becomes a company that's comparable to Nike. Just because now there's something substantial that any person could look at and see, like, oh yeah, this guy made something gigantic and he came from here. Whereas now...
True, but also, like, it's priceless to the kid out there who has been bullied and had a similar experience of 120 kids run away. And it's like, oh, this guy built this thing and he had the same experience I had.
Yeah.
And, like, to that kid, like, it's the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I really hope to be able to impact, you know, and that's a huge part of what I would like to be able to do, is impact, you know, kids who don't have that. Like, when I was teaching martial arts to kids pre-pandemic, it was a very rewarding job because I could tell I was actually making a really positive difference in kids who otherwise don't get that, not outlet, but influence for just discipline and hard work and consistency and the value that can bring to your life.
Yeah. And one thing that I realized is, like, there are a lot of people out there who have similar values as us.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think I was just pigeonholed in, like, I went to, like, a private Catholic school. These guys were very privileged growing up. Like, I grew up with a lot of white guys, which nothing wrong with white guys. I love white guys. Like, I'm sitting across from one right now, you know? And, you know, and, like, I just held the beliefs of the people around me at the time. And, like, right now I'm in LA, very diverse crowd. I'm learning fitness from every single different type, from barefoot runners, from Olympic lifters, from power lifters, from kettlebell swingers, from Ashman Athletic dragon slayers, bro. Like, there's a wide range of, like, for example, like, I just thought fitness was bodybuilding at one point in my life. I thought it was I thought it was bench press curls and, like, overhead press, bro. Like, you know, like, and now it's like this whole world. I'm just like, I didn't realize the value other things have. You know, when people ask me about the sandals, because in my head I'm just like, oh, I'm weird, right? And all these things. And then when you kind of gravitated, I was like, oh, he sees it too? Yeah. You know, or like someone else will see, like, the kettlebell stuff or the running or the powerlifting, whatever it is, the niche, and they're like, whoa, like, that's so cool. I'm just like, wow, you see it too. Like, you see the benefits of it. There's other people out there who see the benefits in the things that we're doing, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. And that, I mean, I get a similar thing with the Dragon Slayer. Like, I had a guy message me. He's actually been making videos consistently. This guy, Hayden Moeller, makes music too. It's really good. Shout out to Hayden.
Shout out to Hayden.
Hayden Moeller Music on Spotify and TikTok. He makes, like, lo-fi music. I'll play it while I'm just, like, working and stuff. I gotta give him the shout out because he's been making videos consistently.
Shouts out. Yeah, there's something.
But
There's something hard about
he shot me a
consistent
message
videos.
and just talked about how it's like it's made his whole upper body feel so much more bulletproof.
The Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, I feel like there's so many things I do now where like if I just, pick up a weight at a weird angle, or I'm benching or I'm lifting and I feel myself like falling off, I'm able to correct in such a larger range of motion than I would have been able to before because I'm working with leverage now.
Yeah. Have you seen the Dragon Slayer be used in a way that you didn't intend to it be used for, or you haven't used it before in that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I started using it, I was using it with a very similar methodology to a kettlebell. And Sean, at Game of Harmony, he was the first guy to start flowing with it like crazy.
So
Yeah.
you weren't flowing it like him before.
No, I was doing reps.
Yeah.
I was just repping the swings, and I was like, all right, I'm going to build up from here, and as I get comfortable, I'll put more together. But he took it and just started swinging it around, and it was really interesting to see how our different methodologies kind of played together and how we've taught each other stuff. And it's also interesting because that's like
Some of your flows are pretty gnarly too now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been practicing. And I've had the reinforcement of a really good community too.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But yeah, like I'll watch videos of people all over the world who are swinging them now, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't think of that swing. I want to try that one, and I'll mess with that. And it's cool to see because I kind of started this movement and I'm leading it, but like it's so new. And I only started it, a year ago, so I'm still so new to it.
Yeah.
That anybody, especially someone who's strong, because there's guys who are lifting double what I can lift that are buying Dragon Slayers and swinging them.
Yeah. And by that, they could do more things than you can because they have the strength to do more things than you can.
They have a huge head start. Like I don't lift that much weight in comparison to guys who are really strong. I can bench 225 for 3. I can squat 225 for 10.
Yeah.
Those are like my recent PRs, but that's
Still very good lift, sir.
that's not that much weight though. I mean, you're
It's
squatting
a lot more.
like well over 400 now, right?
Yeah. Like 410.
Yeah. That's a lot of weight.
A lot of weight.
So, I can move the Dragon Slayer around below because I've built my muscle for that, but I don't have that much raw strength.
You're also right, but then I'll pick up a Dragon Slayer and be like, this is heavy as fuck. Because I'm not used to that leverage.
Exactly. It's a different type of strength, and it's a different type of coordination that goes with it. But it's really interesting seeing people who are literally like twice as strong as me, if not more, pick it up and move it around in a way that I'm like, I didn't even think about that. They can really do this.
It's similar to the Mazzotlis in the sense of like, I was really impressed with the way you moved with it for the first time on the trail. Like this
thank you.
dude was jumping from rock to rock, and like when we picked up the pace, like you were moving pretty good, and like a lot of people who, at least for me too, like when I first did it, like it's kind of achy when you hit a rock and this and that, but you just learn to accept it.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a massage.
Yeah.
Just a little
definitely
therapeutic like pressure points.
Well, I've done a lot of bulletproofing for my feet and ankles prior, so I think I was already geared up for it. But I certainly, like today, my ankles are sore.
Yeah.
It's a good sore. Like, it's not bad, but it's just like, oh yeah, it definitely worked out.
Yeah, and like you don't get the same workout in the shoes. Like, we were hiking with a couple clients as well, and they brought some shoes, and we were moving through like rivers and shit. Yeah. And when your feet get wet in regular shoes, dude, it's hard to navigate on the other side of it. Yeah. With the Mazzotlis, you're kind of just like, it's wet.
Keeps going.
Keep going. Yeah.
I think the nice thing was when you get rocks like in between the Mazzotli and the sole of your foot, and like I have a little bit of sand in there, and it's not super comfortable, but I could tell like this is how calluses are built. Yeah, which
I got some gnarly calluses on my feet now. One thing that I'm tripping out about it. You know who Mark Bell is? Yeah. He's the founder of Slingshot, for the bench. Yeah. And he has his own podcast. One of the biggest powerlifters, like, known for. Yeah. He came out with this product similar to Mazzotli's sandals. Really? And I was like, they're not nearly as good.
Okay.
Not nearly as good. And I was like, wow, powerlifters are getting into them now. Like, they don't even know.
Barefoot lifting's getting pretty big. I think, doesn't Bruce Wang deadlifts barefoot a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's something of, I mean, dude, if you just think about the shoe, like grounding, Gary Brecka, do you know who that is?
Yeah, Gary Brecka talks about grounding a lot.
Grounding a lot, and like the science of it.
Yeah.
Like the science of the magnetic energy going through your body. Like, it's real.
Yeah.
Like, it's very woo-woo in the holistic, meditative world, but like there's some truth to it.
Absolutely.
You know? And like, it's hard to separate it because like it's very hippy-dippy sometimes, but it's real.
No, it's super real. And I think there's an element of truth to it. There's also an element of truth to like the Hormozy side of things where he's like, yeah, it's good to have your morning routine and do all this stuff, but also America was built on people who wore blue jeans and smoked cigarettes and drank black coffee and probably got cancer in their 60s.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, I mean, the facts prove it, right? So like those could help you, sure, but like there's rich people who don't make their bed. Yeah. There's rich people who like eat breakfast in the morning and don't fast. Yeah. Like, there's rich people who are fat. Like, oh yeah. Like, there's just certain characteristics though. Like, if I remember correctly, the characteristics of successful people from what he said is wildly insecure, believing that they're better than everyone else, and the ability to be consistent. Yeah. You know, those three things. That's really one of those things.
I think work ethic is probably the biggest thing. And also, I think, you know, Hormozy talks about success like millionaires. I don't think you need to be a millionaire to be successful. I think, especially if you don't live in a city, you know, if you live somewhere, not even like more rural, like if you live in a smaller city that just isn't a major city and you're making six figures, you're doing good.
Yeah. I mean, back to the definition of success, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I defined it as doing what I want to do when I want to do it with the people who I want to do it with.
Yeah. Freedom.
And yeah, freedom for sure. But for what I want to do, like, back to your daily routine of like how your perfect day is, you know, mine would physically be like working out in the morning, eating good food, and just like making things. Yeah. And like surrounding myself with like really cool fucking people. You know, like I love learning from my friends because they're very interesting. And like like when you talk about swords, it's very romanticized in my head. Like I don't have that same desire to make swords. I don't have the same desire to just swing in a field. Yeah. You know, or Taylor doing her like crazy Olympia shit and flips. Like I'm like, yo, that's so cool. Like, why do you want to do that? Like in my head, I don't want to do that. Yeah. You know, I'm like, why do you want to do that? Like,
it's like, just some people have that drive to do something. Like, I've romanticized the journey of the wandering swordsman in my head a lot. I like it. I enjoy the solitude. I enjoy what swordsmanship is. Really philosophical. Swordsmanship is very philosophical. There's a lot of it.
What do you mean what do you mean swordsmanship?
The idea of becoming one with the blade as an extension of your body, and what that really means, and mentally preparing yourself for sword-on-sword combat, which is a really crazy idea. And as I'm meeting more guys who are in like the armored combat community, I'm like realizing how crazy it is. When I learned how to use a sword, I was always trained in unarmored combat, where it's just like, okay, both people have a sword, but no one's wearing armor, so like one cut is all it takes. Yeah. Armored combat is brutal.
Okay. But I feel like unarmored combat is more brutal, right? Because you get cut.
Yeah. But I mean, armored combat, you're just bashing the hell out of each other for like 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just like, it's brutal from an athletic perspective. But unarmored combat, it's quick. And that's what makes it so meditative and makes it so in tune with death. And there's a mentality I've seen recently where people are kind of going against the phrase practice makes perfect. And they're saying, well, practice makes progress. We don't want people to strive for perfection. That can be damaging to your mental health, and we want to teach people to focus on progress. And I think there's truth in that, but at the same time, to quote my Sifu, there are graveyards full of pretty good swordsmen. And that mentality is something that keeps me working really hard.
Yeah.
And that's
It's crazy that you talk like that, because we live in the 21st century and not a lot of people are using like fighting swords from day to day. And like, it kind of sounds, I mean, to someone who's objective, I mean, me, it sounds kind of crazy sometimes.
I mean, bro, I talk about quests too.
Yeah.
Like
No, I mean, quest is relatively normal, because like you could have a quest to like, I don't know, become a CPA.
Yeah.
And like that's like I've had friends in love with numbers, and like they just love a balance sheet. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking my quest is gonna be done when I balance these numbers, and I don't give a fuck if it takes me all day.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. Do you think the river we were in yesterday can even comprehend the difference between, you know, us being modern humans and humans from 600 years ago? That's a very short span of time.
I mean, I feel like that
for
river
a
doesn't
river.
care.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
For the ocean,
I feel like it just is though. Like, do you think that river has feelings? Do you think that river?
No.
No.
But it's in tune with the universe. It's a part of a much larger whole, which I do believe that reality has a consciousness.
Okay.
And that consciousness of reality is so primordial and so all-knowing and so much bigger that when it looks at humans that were still fighting with swords and humans now, it doesn't see much of a difference. So when I think about life with the mentality of like, okay, I'm thinking about life like I could have to like fight with a sword.
Yeah.
For my survival. And that's this idea of like I can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because a mistake could cost me everything.
Which is a very good perspective to view life as.
Yeah,
Back to your...
it's grounding.
What's that law?
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's
Yeah.
Law. It's like, if you fuck up, you'll fuck up hard, bro.
Yeah, you might think you're so ready for this sword fight and it's raining out and now it's muddy.
Yeah.
And you didn't practice in the rain, but your opponent did. And they're a terrible swordsman, but they practice in the rain and you're going to slip.
And they're riding Vespa and they'll fall.
Yeah. You know, it's just stuff like that, where it's just like, you know, it's all these factors that can come into play. So it really is just this, you know, every detail I can think of to cover all my bases, try to just be as close to perfect as possible. And perfect isn't this, you know, state of like, okay, I'm perfect, everything's just right. It's no, perfect is an amorphous state where I'm in tune with the Tao of everything. And that's perfection, is being amorphous and in tune with reality and changing with it. Because when you're like that, then you're perfect. Because then whatever comes your way, you can flow with it.
Yeah.
But
how do you decide on what to work on? Like, if that is like what to work out on, if that's a run or a workout, or if that's like a certain aspect of the business, because at the end of the day, you decide what you want to do, right? And like, you can't be perfect at everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get good at everything. Like, how do you decide to on the certain aspects of the business, or like what aspect of the body to work on, or like what workouts to do? Like, what is your like compass for that?
I listen.
Okay.
I listen, you know, I listen to for working out, I listen to what my body needs. So like right now it's my shoulder needs a lot of rehab. So I'm hitting legs heavy. I'm doing, you know, just endurance cardio to keep my blood flowing. I'm doing cold exposure to lower inflammation, and I'm doing rehab for my shoulder. That's what I can do. That's
what your body's telling you.
Yeah, that's the perfect thing I could be doing.
Okay.
For my business, I can't be perfect at everything, but I can be doing my role perfectly, or as close to perfectly as possible, which is, okay, I can't make swords quickly myself, or as quick as I need to myself, but I can hire people to help me make them. Now it's closer to what the universe is demanding of me. Or I can...
Is it the universe demanding you, though, or is it what you think to be true?
I trust my interpretation of what I think to be true to be in tune with reality.
Okay.
That's what I would say for that. I think...
Because, like, I live my life assuming that I might be wrong.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely might be, but I'm betting on myself.
Yeah.
So I have to bet on myself, assuming that I'm right about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm wrong, I have to bet on myself to be able to recognize that in time.
Yeah.
And then change to whatever I need to do.
Where do you get that confidence from? Because I feel like you speak so confidently about the decisions you make.
Experience.
Yeah.
Doing enough things that at this point I'm like, I can probably take on this.
Yeah.
This is my third business now. On top of that, I've just had a lot of challenges in my life. I've been given a lot of jobs and tasks that were pretty open-ended and pretty encompassing in the level of, and the amount of responsibilities I had to do. And I think that prepared me for it a lot. Like there's things that I look at, little details that I look at in my business now that I'm like, I didn't think that this experience as a child would have made me better at this. But I understand
As a child. What experience as a child has made you a better entrepreneur?
I was really into origami as a kid.
Yeah.
Being into origami as a kid made it really easy for me to figure out how to package swords efficiently. I entirely think that's what it is. I see the boxes. I didn't have to think about it. I just get how to do it because I understand how folding paper works. Yeah. And there's things like that I'm like, okay, I can just, there's things that don't take as much mental energy. And like when I taught people how I box boxes, there were people that I heard and they're like, wow, this is like a really well thought out system. How long did it take you to do this? And I'm like, I just looked at the box and knew what to do. And I don't know if that sounds like I'm like gloating about it, but that's like what it was. I looked at it.
It's very intriguing.
Yeah, like so there's things like that where that's also helped me build my confidence. Like there's conversations I've had where like people have heard what I'm doing and have been like, well, I couldn't do that. And for a lot of my life, I've always looked at what I was doing as like anybody could do what I'm doing. It's not that hard, just anybody who decides to do what I'm doing. As I've gotten older and more experienced, I've started to see what my peers are doing with their time for the most part and what people who are older than me are doing. I've started to look at myself and be like, oh, I'm actually a pretty capable, competent person. And if the story I'm trying to write for myself is the story of someone who is, in 10 years going to be a very successful entrepreneur, I need to start treating myself like I'm a person of that kind of competence.
Yeah.
And I have to bet on myself like I'm a person of that type of competence. And I have to move assuming that I have the competence to make the moves that I'm going to make. And if I fail, I fail. But, I then trust myself to pick up the pieces and start anew or figure out how to fix it or have a hell of a good story to tell. Yeah. And it really is about investing in the story for me right now. That's the core thing. So
do you ever get like an icky feeling when you hear like a corny quote or like some motivational video at all?
Sometimes I'm like, sometimes it'll be corny and I'll be like, yeah, but it's not wrong.
It's not wrong, right? So like, I get that a lot. Like, I'm like, that makes sense, but that's so fucking corny, right?
Yeah.
And I find that about words a lot too. So like the word entrepreneur, right? Or the like philosophy or all these things. And I've been trying my best to like treat the word or the quote for what it is. So entrepreneur, businessman, philosophy, lover of knowledge, like those things. And I admire about you a lot. It's like you speak so confidently about like, I'm going to be like the story for me to become the best entrepreneur and this and that, X, Y, and Z. And I don't know what's in my head about like every time I rarely define myself. Like I will say businessman 9 days out of 10 over entrepreneur, just because like for some reason I was like, I don't want to sound corny, bro. Yeah. And I was just curious because social media is so clusterfucked with like all these things, and I kind of don't want to be known for like a corny ass motherfucker. Yeah, of course. Well, there's also, I forget where I heard about this, but there's a trend in language where words start to have a more negative connotation over time, which I think is really interesting. The word awful is a really good example. Awful. Okay. Awful used to just mean full of awe. Okay. Like if you see something and you're like, wow, this like strikes awe in me.
like a beautiful landscape. That's
I could
awful.
see. Yeah.
Now, awful is a description for something shitty.
Yeah.
And that's something that goes over time. And that's something we see even like the word influencer. Influencer used to be really cool.
Yeah.
Now you're in LA and you hear influencer, you're like, great, you roll your eyes. Now they want to be called content creators.
Yeah.
Now, content creators, give it 5 years, they're not going to want to be called content creators anymore. There'll be another word.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how that goes. So entrepreneur has kind of a similar thing because we have this wave of people that have come out of the woodworks that started a business with their parents' money and they call themselves entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are, there's entrepreneurs and there's successful entrepreneurs, and the level of success socially required to call yourself an entrepreneur and be taken seriously socially is, the bar has been set higher because the social standard has changed. And I call myself an entrepreneur because that's the bar I'm trying to hit. And also because
you fit the definition of it.
Yeah, like I'm an entrepreneur because I'm starting something from scratch. I'm building it up, and that's what an entrepreneur is. It's someone who just turns an idea into a business, into a reality.
Yeah.
You are too.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's this mentality that comes with actually identifying as that, where it's like, not a lot of people have the balls to... Sorry, I keep kicking the microphones.
You're good.
Not a lot of people have the balls to actually identify as an entrepreneur.
No, that's why I'm so opposite, too. They also have the balls to identify it without them actually being it.
Yeah.
So
Well, they don't really identify it. They call themselves that. I internally see myself as an entrepreneur. Now. I live it. I'm in it. And now that I've been in it entirely since May, I feel very different than I did when I was an employed person, because it's
May this year?
This year.
June, July, August, September, October, November. It's only been 7 months.
Yeah.
It's been 7 months since you quit.
7 months.
Bro, my relationship with time is not great, because like that feels like a long ass time ago. It's only 7 months.
Yeah, I mean it's also been an extremely long 7 months.
Yeah.
You know, this year has been, for both of us, has been a massive catalyst for growth.
Yeah, I think about this all the time, because there's a lot of people who don't accomplish a lot in 7 months.
Yeah.
You know, and like people ask me like why probably the last 3 months, every hour of every single day for the last 3 months has been planned out, except for my Christmas 3 days at home with my family. And it's because I'm so obsessed with like getting shit done. I have this fat to-do list.
Yeah. And
I'm curious to know like what your process is to getting things done, because I have this yellow sheet of paper and I write things down and I cross stuff off. It's like workouts. It's with business stuff. I categorize it with like ASAP, like immediate to do, long-term to do, and then like wanting to do. And then I just start crossing shit off, and then I write more shit down, and then I see like half of my list is crossed off. I rewrite every single thing on a new yellow sheet of paper, and I just do the same thing every single day.
Yeah. I like digital alarms a lot. I set alarms on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, I have my wake up alarm. I have my alarm that says leave for the gym, be at the gym. Same thing for breakfast. Like, I have alarms every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that really helps me.
Okay.
It's, you know, it goes off.
I guess for business stuff, like, is everything on the top of your mind, or do you write anything down?
I write a lot down. I use my notes app a lot. Okay. I have a journal that I use.
Okay.
I do keep a lot of stuff mentally. I have found with the numbers I'm getting, I'm starting to find that I have to write stuff down more.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because I used to really pride myself on being able to keep everything in my head.
Yeah.
And getting to the point where I'm getting, where it's like, all right, I have like a dozen people to reply to, with all different emails. Now I'm starting to get to the point where like, okay, I have to start writing stuff down and setting reminders and doing stuff. I used to be better at just like keeping everything in my head.
Yeah, I'm not great at it, dude. Like, for example, leading up to the hike, I have like something on my list, hit up Tommy for XYZ.
Yeah.
Like, and I will forget. Like, but on my calendar, it's like, what do you got to hit Tommy for? Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
You know, every single small thing. And I feel like, I don't know if I'm smart or just like, I just know I need to write it down to remember it. Because like every morning I wake up and I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, this is what I have to do today. I don't remember.
We're going to look back on like this moment, like this. Oh, God, I keep tapping the microphone. We're going to look back on like this part of the conversation like 5 years from now and be like, man, we were so fucking green. We're going to have our systems like super in place and be like, man, we didn't know what we were doing.
Like, it's like I don't know if it's weird like that. Like I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow until I look at my calendar.
Yeah.
And like, it kind of makes me scared because if my phone dies, like I'm just like, I literally don't know what I'm going to do.
We're super reliant on technology as a culture now. But okay, so back on the entrepreneur thing, I think a huge part of the reason why it's weird is
What's weird?
The social stigma around being an entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah.
Because there is an
of calling
element,
yourself an entrepreneur.
There's an element of risk to being an entrepreneur that like everybody knows, but unless you're in it, you don't really see it. Like the knowledge that like everything could fall apart, it could be the last day of your business running at any moment, is really, it's incomprehensible what it truly feels like unless you're in it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think a lot of the stigma comes from that, and I think a lot of the social doubt comes from that, of people who like, you know, they'll see people who call themselves entrepreneurs and they're like, yeah, they're calling themselves an entrepreneur until it fails and they go get a real job. And that's how it is for a lot of people. And I mean, yeah, 90% of businesses fail. That's a real statistic, and there's real reasons for that. But you can see consistent patterns in the ones that don't. And it's people who, I mean, you were talking about the character traits of people who succeed, of, you know, the deep insecurity, the obsession, and the thought that, you know, they're actually better than people. I see people who consistently read and consistently learn, people who consistently ask questions and don't think they know everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of successful people who don't read though.
There are.
Yeah, like what's his name? The guy who started Virgin.
Richard Branson?
Richard Branson doesn't really read much.
Interesting.
He has dyslexia. And
he's probably listening to books then.
Could be.
Yeah, he's definitely getting educated.
Gary Vee talks about how he hates reading, doesn't read. You know?
Gary Vee, he's getting his education from somewhere. They have to be getting educated from somewhere. There's no way that people are just... I shouldn't say no way. It's very unlikely.
No, for sure. They have to be educated in some way.
Fringe examples of, you know, hyper successful, you know, social media entrepreneurs are different than what you can consistently see when you meet successful people.
Yeah. And,
you know, when I was road tripping and building pool tables for people, and I was in their houses building pool tables, I consistently saw books. The conversations a lot of times led back to book recommendations. It led back to habits. Waking up early is a huge one. Yeah, it's not everyone, but a lot of them do. The majority of them do. Good health as a priority might not be for rich, but for success and just like living a long, good life. Yeah, you should keep your health together. You know.
Do you know who Charlie Munger is?
Yeah.
He just recently passed away. And his book, Poor Charlie's Almanac, based off of Poor Richard's Almanac, is Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
It's all his life lessons, and he was the right-hand man to Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
And his lessons really like hit home with me.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I mean, Warren Buffett, he's the Snowball book, right? I think that's what it's called.
I don't know. I've never heard of that.
I think it's called Snowball, is Warren Buffett's book.
What does reading do for you?
I feel like I am giving myself the thoughts of some of the most successful and wise people throughout all of history. I think that's really what it does for me. Is it lets me be in the shoes of these people and tune into their experience and in a way kind of have a conversation with them. And you know, it might not.
So funny you use conversation with the books and with reality.
Yeah.
Like And it seems like that's a real thing. Like you kind of have this dialogue between you and that person if it were to happen.
Yeah.
And also the reality of like if they could speak back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times, like a book will answer most of the questions I could think to ask said person and more.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll bring up new questions, and then that actually drives me. You know, like when I read Shoe Dog in Florida, I was thinking like, man, I just want to get successful enough that I can get in the room with Phil Knight and like talk to him. And like same thing like when I read Robert Greene's books, like I just want to like when I read Mastery, that book made me want to succeed just so I could get in a room with Robert Greene
I've
and
only
like
read
ask him questions.
42 Laws of Power and The Art of Seduction. I haven't read Mastery.
Mastery is my favorite one.
What's it about?
It's about the transformation process of a person into a master of a skill and the mental shift that happens, and also like how that changes your outlook on life.
What's the mental shift that happens according to Robert Greene?
It makes you first a very deep internal sense of confidence, which I can definitely attribute a lot of my confidence comes to the fact that I mastered Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's very admirable that you're very like no hesitation when you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put my hours in. And when I say mastered, I directly mean I spent over 10,000 hours practicing a skill that I now, even not having practiced in months, I could still do a full form right now.
Yeah.
I also think I mastered pull-ups. I haven't done pull-ups in a few months. Even with shoulder pain, I could probably go on that bar and bang out a set of 20-plus chin-ups, which is, top standard for military level, and I haven't done any pull-ups in 3 months.
That's funny that you say that. I guess like in my head, I think just mastering pull-ups, and for me, I just equivalated that to like 50 in a row, but I don't know the statistics about it, so I always think I'm bad.
Well, I've been doing pull-ups consistently for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a mastery of a skill. I would say I've mastered push-ups too. I can do push-ups on just my thumbs for reps.
Yeah.
So it's like, but this idea of like mastery, it's, when you get to the level of mastery, you also realize that you're just scraping the surface. Being a master is realizing that there's actually a lot of people who are masters and a lot of people who are way better than you.
Yeah.
That's why they say like there's levels to the mixed martial arts game where there's
levels of fitness, right?
Yeah. Like I consider myself a master of Kung Fu. I'd get my ass handed to me by an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've still gone through the transformation process of someone who could not do this skill to now someone who can do it. That's what I mean by mastery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I can go around beating up MMA fighters by any means.
Getting from A to B, from getting to the point where I don't know anything to getting to be very competent in it, to being able to teach someone how to do it. Like that is a very liberating feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I taught someone how to deadlift the other day for the first time. He's never deadlifted, and then he's like in his 40s.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what? You don't know how to do this? Like in my head, I'm just like, it seems so normal to me. Like for you, probably like a kick. You're like, oh, this is natural to me. But then you see someone throw a kick, you're like, oh, you don't know how to do it.
We got to start from scratch here. We got a lot to do.
You got a lot to do. You got to start with like, oh, this is how you stand.
Yeah.
All right. This is how much weight distribution is between your front and back leg.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is how your hip goes.
And then you realize they have to build stability in their ankles because they're losing kinetic energy at a certain point. So there's.
But
all
for you,
kinds
it's just
of,
a kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because I spent so much time doing it.
I forget about that.
It came full circle from like, okay, when I first threw a kick, it was just a kick. Then I learned every detail.
Yeah.
Then I practiced intensely and rigorously until every detail became natural, and it came full circle to being just a kick. And that's the process of mastery.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like if you're learning to play an instrument. The Beatles, they mastered playing in a band by playing over and over and over again in a pub in England.
Yeah.
Performing thousands of times, and then they became the Beatles.
Yeah.
Anybody who plays an instrument will tell you the amount of time they have to put into it. That's mastery. That's one of the most common forms of mastery is people who learn to play an
I
instrument.
just forget about, like, I guess that time because, like, for example, you came to see my powerlifting meet. I don't even know when that was.
Yeah.
Do you remember when it was? The month?
I thought it was early October.
Okay.
Maybe September.
Whenever it was. I was kind of talking about juggling.
Yeah.
You know, and you were like really curious about it. I was like, oh yeah, you just throw it and this and that, blah blah blah. And then you probably spent 30 minutes to an hour on it trying to figure it out outside, and I didn't realize, like, I forgot about how many hours I spent in my living room during COVID, just like fucking throwing these balls in the air. It was probably hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, now think about bartending.
Yeah.
I gave you 2 words, and you whipped up a fantastic drink.
Yeah.
That's a skill.
No, you're right.
So, like,
Yeah, I just forget about that a lot.
Yeah.
Either when you talk about mastery and stuff, I just like the norms of success. Like, you normalize your accomplishments so easily, and you on to the next.
yeah.
Like, for example, like, technically I'm an ultra marathon runner right now, but
Yeah.
to me, I'm just like, okay, and when am I going to figure out how to get enough endurance to hit a 50 next?
Yeah.
You know?
Which is that's the mentality of someone who's growing, though.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important. And, like, I'm now starting to get to a place where I feel like I can balance that drive to do more and also start to have confidence in what I've done as a base for the fact that I'm capable of doing more. And I think that that's a necessary thing for me to actually do that. I don't think I'll be able to get to the next stage unless I start getting confident enough that I can.
Yeah.
Because it's...
When's the last time you pushed your limits?
the past few months. Absolutely.
Like, hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was tough.
Yeah, very tough.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully I was around my family and around like close childhood friends because they saw me like losing my shit.
Losing your shit. Well, how so?
I was having panic attacks.
What's a panic attack? I guess, what are the symptoms of a panic attack that you experienced?
My heart was racing. I couldn't control my breathing. I thought everything was going to fall apart. Like, I was really freaking out. Like, I was not... I didn't feel emotionally stable. I wasn't able to sleep. Like, I wasn't well.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't balanced and zen, but I went through that.
Yeah.
So I absolutely felt like I pushed my limits while I was out of town. Taught me that I'm capable of performing the necessary tasks even under that amount of stress.
Yeah.
And that if I feel that amount of stress, that is the level of discomfort that is required to
Get the job done.
get the job done.
Yeah.
At least at this stage. But it's also, you know, the level of risk. You know, I'm like, I can't be on top of everything at once. There's trust I have to bring out to other people. And that's something
The
that's
trust part's hard.
Trust part's really hard.
Like, I just started trusting an editor to do like my shorts.
Yeah.
You know, and it saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
But also, like it's your vision, it's your baby.
Yep.
Like, to make the swords, right? Like, if you're trusting someone else to do it, like, are they gonna fuck up, right? It's your work. It's representing who you are. It's representing your brand.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, it's a hard thing to give up.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to give up because it's part of you.
Yeah.
You know, like, how did you have the courage to let go of that?
I realized I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I looked at it eventually. I was like, you know what? If I want this to be as big as I want it to be, I can't do it alone.
Yeah.
I need other people. And if I need other people, I have to have people I trust, and I have to trust them. And there's a very real time limit on things, which is, that's kind of the craziest thing about this, is the fact that there's just a constant time limit on it, where it's like, you know, I've needed a training program to come out with the swords. At no point since starting this have I had enough time
To
create that.
Yeah.
So I trusted Sean to make it, which I absolutely think was the right decision.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's editing it currently.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see it. He showed me an overview of it, and we called and talked about it. It looks fantastic. It's a 12-week program called Intro to Swordsmanship through the Leverage-Based Strength Training
That's a cool name, bro.
program. Yeah, LBST.
Sounds so legit.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we want it to be legit, and we talked about it. We talked about using like all the proper kinesiology terms, everything. Like, we want it to be legit. You know, both of us are trainers.
Yeah.
I've been a trainer for 5 years. He's been a trainer for 10 years. Like, we have every right to talk about it as if it's a real program, and we're making it that. And it's really wild to see this thing go from like backyard fitness to a real legitimate strength program with, you know, both through Sean and through Daniel down in Miami, to have two like real master trainers who've worked with multiple professional athletes be writing programs for it. Like, that's pretty wild.
Fucking
But
crazy.
that's another place where the confidence comes from, is seeing competent people that I'm around. Mark Wildman's another great example. He wants to write a program for it too. And he's an unbelievable trainer. He's like, you know, one of the biggest guys for like mace training on YouTube. He's one of the biggest guys. And, you know, I got to meet him recently, and being around people who are really competent, really successful in this field, and having them talk to me as an equal, that's built a lot of confidence for me. It's like, wait, I have a seat at the table with people who are at the table. I'm here now.
Are you shocked at that? And I'm not necessarily shocked. Do you get that imposter syndrome sometimes when you're? Yeah.
But also, I think everyone does.
Yeah.
And I saw a post a while back talking about how like I want to talking about like replacing imposter syndrome with brilliant con man syndrome, where it's like, you know, maybe I don't deserve to be here, but I'm here, and somehow I've gotten here, and I'm just gonna go with it and see what I can do.
Brilliant con man syndrome.
Yeah, and sometimes,
That's funny.
So sometimes when I feel like an imposter, I'm like, you know what? So what if I'm an imposter? Just make sure they don't find out.
Yeah.
And maybe my con is that I have 10 years of knowledge of, you know, training from when I was 15 years old watching YouTube videos, and all my experiences create this con until it becomes a reality.
Yeah.
And this idea that like, you know, maybe even if I don't believe in it, I can con myself into believing it.
Yeah, that's
which is weird, because like I know it's real.
Yeah.
But like knowing something and like truly internally believing it are two different things. So
well, that's the whole thing with like Hormozy talks about a lot. He's like, I don't give a fuck if you don't feel like you could do the thing, but if you do the actions that do the thing, it doesn't matter how you feel.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, once I start doing the work, it's really hard for me not to believe in it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could make all the swords I needed to make by the end of the year. I was really worried. I don't know if I was going to do it.
How long does it take to do one sword?
I can do a sword in a day, but like I don't do them
in one by one.
One at a time. You know, I have my setup right now. I have two big racks that I call dragon wagons. They're on wheels.
Yeah.
And I can finish 32 swords at once. And staining them takes a day, and then they have to just set overnight, and then I can coat them the next day. So I can do 32 swords finished every 2 days, but then they have to get packed. Packing takes
a long time probably.
Yeah, so I have
properly without getting them broken.
Yeah, so then they have to be packed properly. So I had two people that I hired, one person who was helping me stain and coat, and one person who was helping me pack. We could stain and coat 32 a day, and then I could get about 10 to 12 packed per day.
Okay. So you're probably knocking out, you're only getting 12 finished products minimum a day.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I ran that.
250.
Yeah.
So,
but then once we finish all of them, now all three of us are packing.
Yeah.
So then it really starts to ramp up towards the end. So like every day I was dropping off, 10 to 15 swords at UPS. Yeah. And then at the end I was doing 25, 30 a day. Just bam, bam, bam. I got them all out. Yeah. And then it was done. And it was like, it was really crazy because like while it was going on, I did not think about anything else. Like from the time you called me in Florida when I was down there till last Tuesday, I didn't even think about what was next. My entire focus was just make swords.
Do you ever think about relationships when, like, in terms of coexisting in building a business at this stage? Because, like, I think it's nearly impossible.
You know, my relationship ended right around the time I quit my job.
Yeah.
And I think a huge part of the reason why is because I was working too much to give her the attention that she wanted.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, it stopped being a compatible situation. And then we both felt unhappy with how things were going. But unless I think starting a relationship would be very difficult.
I think it would be extremely difficult.
Because I think asking someone to bet on me as a partner while I'm in just such a flux state is very weird. At the same time,
there's like two types of relationship, in my opinion. It's like the one who builds with you, like they go in on the business with you, right? And they kind of like encompass it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, they become part of it.
Yeah, it's someone who's either going to be on the field with me or a cheerleader.
Or the cheerleader, right?
And
the cheerleader dynamic's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I don't think I want that.
Yeah. The cheerleader dynamic still has that, like, yeah, I go, but, like, they don't really understand.
Yeah. And I also think the amount of success required to get, like, the cheerleader type partner is more than I currently have.
Wait, say that again?
The amount of success required to attract that type of girl is more than I currently have. I think
I don't believe that.
I think, well, you're not shadowing my life.
Sure.
Like, I think that kind of girl wants someone who's also gonna, like, be taking her out to nice dinners all the time, and I'm not there. I don't
think so. I feel like maybe. I mean, like, maybe the ones that you're thinking of. Like, yeah, for sure.
But also, like, to be completely honest, if I even had the first type and she came into my life and was like, yo, I'm so into this idea, I want to be your partner, I would look at her and be like, you're fucking crazy. You want to have the stress I have? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
If some girl came into your life and said that, though, like, would you accept it? Would you give it a try? Or would you be like, you're crazy? No.
I mean, I'd give it a try, but I think it's one of those things where I don't even know if I'm ready for that. I think it's I could see it very quickly getting difficult. I could see her getting fed up because it's just like, babe, you're always working. And it's like, yeah, I'm building a company.
Yeah.
And people have lives, you know, like to ask someone, I dropped everything to do this. To ask someone to do that right now would be a lot to ask someone that I don't already have an existing relationship with.
Yeah.
So, like, had my ex and I stayed together, I think it would be a very different dynamic. The dynamic would have had to change drastically from what it was before, and it wasn't, so it ended.
Yeah.
And someone would either have to fit in to my current lifestyle really well, or it just won't really flow.
Yeah. And have you read The War of Art?
The War of Art?
Yeah.
No.
By Stephen Pressfield?
No.
It's one of my favorite books in terms of creative practices. And he talks about this topic of resistance, right? It's like every type of form of resistance. Like, alcohol could be a form of resistance. Like, you're going to alcohol instead of working on your business. It could be like sex, right? It could be like, like you're looking for bodily pleasure instead of like working on this creative act. Or it could be social resistance, like, oh, your friends are hitting you up to go hang out, but you got to say no, because like that's part of your resistance, you know. And I play around with that in my head all the time, and when I think about like relationships, and I'm like, is that resistance? Like, sometimes like you could define it as not, and like as like adding to your life in terms of like emotionally and stuff, but a lot of times it can be, because it's taking some of that energy away from the thing that you want to grow. You know, so it's a real hard decision for, I guess, me to make. I only can speak for myself.
Well, also, picking a partner is the most important decision you can ever make. Seriously,
I agree.
That is
I
the
agree.
most important decision. That is the make or break for your entire life. So making that decision well is really important. And also, thankfully, I'm still only 25 doing this, so I'm not.
Young buck, baby.
Yeah, I don't feel a massive
Talking like
rush
you're 100, bro.
to find someone right now. Like I don't feel that. Like one of my best friends got married at 23.
Oh, same.
And he
Yeah.
just bought a house with his wife, and I saw him
dude.
when I was in Chicago, and I was laughing. And he's like, he asked me what I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, dude, I would be shocked if I'm getting married before 30.
Yeah, my best friend has about to have 2 kids and 6 dogs in the house, and I'm just
Oh my
like,
god.
yeah, and I'm just like, I can't relate. Like, there's something
Yeah.
about this quest, like. When you talk about it, it's like this deep intermission to fucking get this shit done. And, like, I don't know where it comes from, bro. Because, like, at the end of the day, I do see the romance of having those 2 kids, the dogs, the
Yeah, of
house, and
course.
just hanging out and just, like, having your job and coming home to a wife and kids and dinner and this
Yeah.
and that. Like, that sounds all great. But
Yeah.
also, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think about objectively of my thoughts on that subject. I'm like, you're crazy, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
And like there's a part of me that does want that. Like I love the idea of having that at the end of the day, but I also understand that it's like that's part of it is the world we live in is very rapidly changing. Like my best friend who's married, he's part of his family's business. His father built up a body shop
Yeah.
that him and his brother are taking over, and they work really hard, but they're turning a profitable business so that they have the abundance to do that at a young age. And they're very religious, so him and his wife met through the church, so they have that kind of social structure in place where they could get married that young and build their lives together that young. You and I don't really have that.
Yeah.
Which is just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's just, it's one of the things I think I'm really fortunate to have is a life where I've gotten to see a very, very broad array of life experiences and different experiences people can have. One of my mentors, I think I told you about him last time we talked. This guy, Tom Price, he was an oil guy. He's in his 70s now. He was one of my clients at Stretch Lab. And dude is...
Oh, you told me about this on the run yesterday, not on the podcast.
Yeah, wicked smart.
Yeah.
First, he told me that your partner is the most important choice you'll ever make. And he told me that when I was like...
Romantic partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
He told me that like when I was going through like the breakup era and I wasn't sure about the relationship. And he just said like, listen, if you're uncertain, you should be thinking about that very seriously, because if you're uncertain now and you're at this level of risk, it's only going to get worse. So he made that very clear. He's like, your partner is the most important choice you make. Don't mess up there. You only get one. And
Hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully. And that's also something too. I'd prefer that be how my life looks. My grandpa and grandma were together for 60 years. My dad and mom are still together. So I
beautiful.
really hope that I get that too. It'd be really nice. But at the time, I had been bouncing around another business idea a lot, and it's still my dream business, but it's going to be a while before I can really do
Are you
it.
allowed to talk about it?
Not on here, but I'll tell you.
Do you want to put it in the
after.
world?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
It is. It's good. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But I pitched it to him, and he said, it's really great, but you have to build yourself up as an entrepreneur. Start with something that you know about. You're trying to talk about this, massive multi-million-dollar business. Why don't you try running a 6-figure business first in a field that you know about? You didn't graduate from Harvard with a business degree. Like you're not looking for angel investors for something like this. Why don't you build a business from the ground up, show that you're a competent entrepreneur, and then if you still want to do that, then you have at least a resume as an entrepreneur. And if you're good, you could probably even fund it yourself.
Yeah.
And that that conversation shifted my entire mentality on what I'm doing with my life.
Shouts out Stretch Lab for that conversation.
Yeah, seriously. Stretch Lab gave me a lot of connections.
Yeah.
But learning to think like that, and learning to think like, okay, what if I don't need angel investors? What if I'm raising the money myself? What if I can actually make the money myself?
Yeah.
To do whatever I want to do. And
that is one thing that I've seen, because I have friends who started businesses the time we have.
Yeah.
And they didn't raise the money themselves. They got funding, and the funding went away, and then they burnt out. It's dead. Yeah. And I was like, wow, like, I'm still alive. Like, entrepreneurship, business, it's not of like, there's no winning. It's continuing. Yeah. You know, like, I'm still alive in the game, bro.
That's the quest.
There's
more questions to answer, but also when you start from zero, like you or me, you realize how little you need to keep the ship moving. Yeah. Like, I've had a lot of money flow in and a lot of money flow out, and I've realized, like, I can operate with very little money in the system because the system isn't reliant on money and hiring people and paying people to do stuff. It's reliant on me working. So as long as I can work, as long as I still have my hands, I can breathe, I can do stuff, I can keep Ashman Athletics going. Yeah. So that's why, I mean, that's a huge part of the confidence too. Bro. Yeah.
Because, like, we're the only factor. Yeah. It's like, the more we put on the gas pedal makes our chances of living in the business or playing the game alive. Yeah. Like, if we take a break 2 days, 3 days, we're like, oh, fuck. Like, our chances of survival are going down.
Yeah, that's why, like, the past few days, like, I told you, I'm already, like, itching to do more. Yeah. You know, I took it easy for a few days. And today I was like, yeah, I can't do another day like this because it's going to catch up with me really quick.
Yeah. And it feels nice at the time.
It's nice. I definitely needed it. Yeah, yeah. You know, it gave me a reset. It gave me some chance to have clarity. And now I'm going to go back in with better strategy and a better mentality and more warmth. And
no one can really relate to, like, the feeling that we're going through with that unless they're playing the game. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And even then, a lot of people... Oh, no, the people in the game get it. Yeah. And that's another interesting thing, too, is, like, these past few months have, like, really changed how I see my father, because my dad's an entrepreneur, too. Mm-hmm. And he's been running his company for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I never really understood it growing up. And then there was...
You don't understand it now because you're playing the game.
Yeah, I get it now, and it's weird because he'll, like, look at me and be like, don't worry, it's only every day until you sell your business. This is how it's going to feel. You will always be worried. Like, he just affirms it. Yeah. And it's interesting because he now looks at it very differently. He looks at it like he's at the end of his journey, and he's seen the decisions he made and how they worked out for him, and decisions his friends made and how they worked out for them, and decisions of his other people his age and how they worked out. And he talks about jobs like it's just a deal. He goes, this is the deal they'll give you.
Jobs.
Like
regular jobs.
Like regular jobs. Okay. And he'll talk about it. He'll be like, you know what, that's not a bad life. Like, being a college professor, you know, you can make $250 a year as a college professor. Yeah. And you get full bennies. And he'll just talk about it and be like, you know, that's a good deal. If you can get into that field, go for it. You will have a good life. Yeah. You'll work. You'll put in 40 hours a week. You have to be there, but you'll be set. And he goes, the main benefit of being an entrepreneur is you can decide when you get your hair cut. You can decide when you go to the doctor's office. You decide when you do your grocery shopping. I have the freedom to go grocery shopping at 2 p.m. Mm-hmm. If I want to get a haircut at 10 a.m., I can do that. However, I'm always on the clock. Yeah. I'm in the barber's office replying to emails while I wait for my thing. If I'm in the grocery store and someone calls me and, you know, it's a customer with a broken sword... Yeah. They got their sword and UPS broke it.
That's like the difference between like being self-employed and being an owner of something. Like, obviously we're owners of whatever we're creating, right? Yeah. But we have to work. or
Yeah.
else it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Right. But to some point, we want to make whatever we're creating an asset, like running on its own. And we're still working hourly on our time. Like
Yeah.
we're just working for ourselves.
Exactly.
You know, but I'm excited for the next 5 years, bro.
Me too.
I'm
think
excited.
it's- I think
Are
things
you
gonna
are you
blow
a
up.
resolution guy?
You know, I don't know if I'm a resolution guy as much as I'm an intention guy.
Okay.
I like
you
to really
explain on
set
that?
intentions. New Year's has always been weird for me because I've only been to a few New Year's parties. I've spent a lot of New Year's alone, and I honestly like. I've enjoyed the parties, but I really like when I get to spend New Year's just like really to reflect on the year and think about like what I want to bring into the next year. I think the idea of resolutions is. I think if resolutions worked, we'd see them work at scale.
Okay.
But, you know, look how many people drop off their gym membership at the end of January.
I don't know the statistics.
Oh,
I
it's
just hear about
like insane. It's like 96% of New Year's resolutions just fail within like a week. It's
Yeah.
like, it's cool. But like, I think setting an intention for the year is really what's important. And, you know, right now it's my intentions for the year aren't really like for 2024. They're kind of just like, what are the next things I need to do for my business as the calendar year starts? I mean, I really want to get manufacturing outsourced, and I really want to focus on putting more of like my own content out there beyond just like swinging a sword. I really want to focus on like, you know, fitness
Courses,
education,
like
fitness
that,
courses, personal content, getting my newsletter up and running.
Yeah, dude. You inspired me with the newsletter stuff. I feel like I need to do that too.
Yeah.
Because
And dropping more products. I brought the hip helper with. I'm excited to show you that.
Yeah.
We'll have it drop by the time this airs, so I'm glad to show you on air.
I'll put it. Yeah, get it real quick.
Yeah. Here,
Get it
I'll
real quick?
show you real
Yeah.
quick.
Hip helper guys, coming. So this is a prototype, or is this real?
So this is one of the prototype models. This is the V2. We're on the V4 now. The main differences are.
How have I not heard of this yet? Have you just is like secret, like secret?
It's not a secret, but we just haven't been publicly advertising it yet because
Yeah.
we're still finalizing the website and everything. The main differences are there isn't going to be this support piece here, and the handle rather than curving up comes just straight out.
Okay.
But yeah, you lay on it, or sit on it, or
Is it
you can use it against a wall.
similar to So Right?
Super similar to a So Right.
Okay. So why would I get this instead of a So Right?
It's a little more ergonomic to use than a So Right, and it's going to be cheaper.
Okay. Ergonomic to use. What do you mean by that?
The So Right is, you know, it's these two, points, and a lot of people think you can lay on it like this.
Yeah.
You're supposed to use one and kind of lift it, but the handle placement of it is a little weird. The handle placement on the hip helper is a lot easier to use for anyone.
I like
And
the
then-
name.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try to use it after, and it's also great to use on a bunch of different parts. Like I've been using it on my shoulders, I've been using it on my neck.
Yeah.
I'm using it like a lacrosse ball to release my piriformis. So it's really awesome.
One thing that I do love about it, it's like it's explaining like what it's doing for you.
Yeah.
Hip
It's the hip helper. It does what it says on the label.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I
Because
think
like
is
a lot of
great
people don't know what
marketing.
a psoas is. You know,
Yeah.
there we go. Last time we had the swords up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about goals and resolutions. I feel like it's like mental masturbation, in the sense of just like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and like I'm gonna be this, achieve this thing and that thing, and I'm at the end of the year, you're like, fuck, I didn't achieve those things. And I've had too many years like that, so I decided I'm not I mean, I say this on almost every single workout post I do or anything like that, just like getting better at things I want to do slowly, if that's just incrementally, just like getting better at a lift or the business or this and that. And if you're still alive and running, you got you're doing the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, it really is just another day.
Yeah.
And this year has made me realize, like, how few holidays I really truly care about. I didn't celebrate Halloween this year.
Me neither.
I spent Halloween in an airport. I flew from Florida to Chicago on Halloween.
Yeah, I mean,
Then I went to bed.
social days that, I don't know, like Black Friday or Christmas, if you think about it, it's just society, in my opinion. It's like, wow, they tricked all these motherfuckers to buy a ton of things that they don't need.
Exactly.
You know, and it helped boost the economy for a little bit, and society just agrees on it.
Yeah.
And just like, oh yeah, this is the time of year where we buy a ton of things.
That's the thing. That loops back to the collective consciousness. The collective consciousness being a negative thing, depending on the scale you look at it with.
Okay.
The collective consciousness is great when it's me and my friends who are also intended on being high achievers, all pushing each other.
Yeah, going into an ice plunge or
exactly,
like going on a hike together and you're
keeping
each
other accountable with how much we're working, things like that.
You guys learn something new every day. I didn't know what the collective consciousness was really.
Yeah,
I was hearing it like woo, and then like I understand it now.
But yeah, like that's the importance of being able to tap into infinite intelligence as well, because that can tell you when the collective consciousness is correct and when it's wrong. So like, you know, for Halloween I did nothing. I didn't take a day off for it.
Did you used to get sad on like holidays or things that you just didn't do the norm of what society tells you should be doing?
I don't think I used to get sad. I mean, I used to want to be a part of it, and then I had times where I was, and like I've been at Halloween parties and New Year's parties and things, and I've always kind of felt this sense of being underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, this is it? Really?
Yeah.
I thought it would be... I thought there would be something more to this, that, like, everyone's doing this.
Yeah.
I thought it would actually be really cool, but it's just a party.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
just a New Year's party. Now we're all wearing gold and things that say Happy New Year, but it's just another party.
Another day.
You know, you can only go to so many parties before you've been to them.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, maybe there's cool people at this party who have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, but like it's just a drunk person. Like, they're dancing, there's cool music being played, sometimes it's a big DJ playing the music, but it's like, it's just a party at the end of the day. And I find so commonly or so frequently that when I'm in a crowd, the feeling I get is, you ever read about like Greek mythology and what the underworld looks like in Greek mythology? It's basically just a field of lost souls. And whenever I'm in like crowds at big shows,
You feel like that.
I feel like that. And that really started in 2021. After my road trip, I went to Lollapalooza. I had a friend give me a free wristband. And I was there, and like I just had this moment where I was having a lot of fun the first day, and then like towards the end of the first day, I just like looked around at one point and I just saw everyone dancing, and I was just like, suddenly I was alone again. And not lonely, but just alone. Suddenly I was just in my experience of it, and I wasn't in tune with the whole crowd. And I just looked around and I'm like, I didn't feel... I just knew it wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It seemed like everyone was there, and like the energy of it was like, these are all people who are going to work their jobs, and this is their like moment of release, and like that's going to be their life. And I just don't want that for myself. I want the quest. Yeah. I want to feel alive every day. Yeah. I don't want to be working dead end hours and then only feel alive when I'm at a party.
Yeah, dude, I've also given access to that, like, makes you kind of not want it, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, working in bars and stuff, I have access to go to, like, nightclubs and DJ parties every Friday, Saturday if I wanted to. Yeah. But I just have no desire to do it anymore. Yeah, when I worked at Signature Lounge, it was, like, the same thing. Yeah. Like, it was, like, a weird level of clout I had in Chicago. Yeah. I was just the host of the Signature Lounge, but, like, you know, I introduced myself as that to a few people at bars in Chicago. All of a sudden, like, I can get into any bar and club, you know, I'm shaking hands with everyone because I just got a job making like $15 an hour. Yeah. Like, it was like a nothing job, and it was a horribly run business, and like, you know, it actually just shut down, and I think it's because the management just wasn't well. Oh yeah, dude, a lot of we talked about this yesterday, but A lot of places aren't run properly.
Yeah.
Just because of the quality of life from it. Like, a lot of people are drinking, a lot of people are on drugs, like,
Exactly.
you know.
So it attracts that. And like, I was in that world and I was like, I thought it would be cooler. Like I thought it was supposed to be
always
like
less.
cool.
It's always less romantic as it seems, But pretty girls are always around over there, so
Of
that's
course
why you
there
say.
But like,
Yeah,
it's
it's like, let's find the ones in the libraries, guys.
yeah, serious libraries, museums. That's where you find them.
Museums. Do you just go to a museum by yourself and look for a girl?
No, I go to museums by myself to appreciate the art and history.
Wow, that was a good answer to attract a girl listening who goes to museums by herself. That was a very good answer. You're quick with it, bro.
I actually do really love museums. Like, as far as like leisure activities go, like when I would rather go to a museum on my day off than go to a festival on my day off.
I went to a museum for the first time in a long time in Montana. I saw like dinosaur bones and shit.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I love that shit.
It was really cool. I haven't been to a museum in
Have you
years.
been to the ones in LA?
I've been to the artsy ones.
The Gettys?
I've been to Getty.
Both of them?
No,
Which one?
I went to the one in. I haven't been to the house.
The Getty Villa?
I haven't been to
Dude,
the.
you gotta go to the Getty Villa.
Getty Villa.
You gotta go.
Okay.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Dang, I might have to steal you for a date.
I would love to. Give me a reason to go to the Getty Villa. Like, seriously. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
We'll go to the Getty Villa and then go surfing over there.
Yeah, dude, that's a day. And then the other one that's really cool, the Natural History Museum here is phenomenal. Like, you want to talk about dinosaur bones?
Yeah.
The Natural History Museum in LA is
Sick?
incredible.
Really?
Yeah. It's really awesome.
Oh, we got a couple to go to.
The museums in Chicago are great. The Field Museum, the Museum of Science and Industry, the Art Institute, breathtaking stuff.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of just like art ones because Kev's curated a lot of art ones.
Oh yeah, he's a photographer, right?
Photographer, but he's also went to school. He just graduated from USC for curation.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, so he's about to curate an art show for UTA. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. He's about to curate this dope show for a very big company.
Nice.
In April, May-ish. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, you're definitely invited, bro.
I would love to.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I think there's... art and history and all that stuff, it's such a cool thing about understanding reality.
Yeah, what does art do? What does someone else's creativity from turning something into nothing do for you?
It adds to the conversation. That's probably the best way I describe it. At the same type of thing where, like, reading is having a conversation, talking to reality is this conversation. Art adds to that conversation.
Yeah, I also think it provides an answer to understanding other people.
Yeah, and it also it connects me to history. I think there's something that's like very common with the modern mindset that we're like disconnected from history, where it's like, people hear me talk about swords and quests and they think like that's stuff people talked about, hundreds of years ago. And I'm like, well, hundreds of years ago isn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And, we have technology now, but like we're still the same animal. We didn't evolve and change from these animals. We were just given more technology. And some people forgot, but I didn't forget. In fact, I'm constantly reminding myself. So...
Yeah, same with books though, right? They remind you of the lessons from people who lived before you. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, some of these books were written pre-World War II that I'm reading, and I'm like, oh, these are like... or better yet, I'm reading Meditations this year. So I've been reading Meditations all year. I'm about to finish it.
Very good, but it's also like the way it's written is just like boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I only read a piece of it.
Sorry,
every day,
Marcus Aurelius.
which helps.
You're fucking
the translation's difficult, but that's also why I read the Daily Stoic along with it, because that's a lot more comprehensible.
Yeah,
so this has been my big year of Stoicism.
Yeah.
Next year I'm actually going to be reading The Art of War and The Five Rings. Those are going to be my daily books.
I've read The Five Rings.
Very excited for them.
Yeah.
I've read some of it, and I'm just like, okay, this is going to be the daily book. And
I haven't read this much.
The thing that's gotten me very interested about meditations is Marcus Aurelius is talking about a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. He's talking about like energy in the aether and stuff like that.
It was a long time ago.
And it was 2,000 years ago.
A long time ago.
And he's talking about like human interaction in a way that is very similar and applicable to what we experience now. And
100%.
things have not changed that much. So
Yeah.
when I see art, especially like Renaissance era art, like a lot of stuff at the Getty, the paintings that are, you know, photorealistic from 300, 400 years ago, I mean, I see that and I'm like, I can really put myself there. You know, we did,
and kind of live it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can be there. I can feel it. And the Getty Villa too, you know, you can imagine like, you know, what it must have been like to see an artifact from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, and the more
and
you
be like, this is like, you know, it's labeled. This is like jewelry that was on some royal robe from 3,000 years ago in Persia, and like you see it, and you're like, this meant something to humans like you and me, and they weren't different. They were like you and me. They were human beings.
Yeah.
And they existed in an organized society, and this was a symbol, an object that meant something, and it's strangely consistent with the things that our society finds meaning in. So
100%. And the more you study that history, the more you have the not necessarily imagination, but also the ability to see the reality of what they experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more I can be in tune with that, the more wisdom I can act with in my current life.
Heck yeah, bro. We did 3 hours.
Yeah? Look at that.
Heck yeah. Where can everyone find Mr. Tommy Ashman at?
Everything is under Ashman Athletics. Ashman Athletics on Instagram, Ashman Athletics on YouTube, Ashman Athletics on TikTok.
I'm excited for next year, bro. We're gonna do another podcast, and I think it's gonna be even a greater. We're gonna look back at this and be like, wow, we've come pretty far.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Proud of you, bro.
Thank you. I'm really proud of you too.
Thanks,
You're
man.
doing fantastic.
Did you get a tattoo that I didn't know about? Is that recent?
No, this was actually how long has it been now? This was June of 2022.
2022?
Yeah, this was June 2022.
Oh, so
I got a map of the world.
It's dope.
Yeah.
Cool. Everyone go follow Tommy. Go check out. Go buy a sword. And stay tuned.
Yeah.
Big things coming, y'all. Peace.